Atlanta news first. This is Chasing the Championship.
All right, and thank you for joining us here at the First Alert Desk. That's right, we are chasing the championship, and thank you so much for joining. I'm Maria Moreau.
I'm Tim Darnell.
This is an exciting day. The countdown for the Dawgs, now LA bound, officially kicks off today. They are leaving from Athens, going to be making their journey all the way to ATL and then to Inglewood, California. I'm excited.
This is, Maria, a day that the fans of the University of Georgia have been waiting for many years. This is the culmination of a series of events that began back in December 2015 when UGA Athletics Director Greg McGarity made the decision to dismiss former UGA head coach Mark Richt and hire a defensive assistant who was still employed at the University of Alabama, a UGA alum named Kirby Smart, to come and be the new head football coach at the University of Georgia. This was the expectation all along, that UGA would do whatever it took, invest whatever money it took, hire the brightest coaching offensive and defensive minds in college football, and even reaching into the professional ranks to bring this level of continued success to the University of Georgia. Kirby Smart learned at the feet of some of the greatest, most successful college football coaches in the nation, most recently serving 7 years as defensive coach for University of Alabama's Nick Saban, who has achieved unparalleled success as an NCAA head football coach and really returning the University of Alabama to its glory days prior, equivalent to those of Paul Bear Bryant. Kirby Smart was brought into Athens. He was a former player, had served as an assistant coach in a couple of places along the way for UGA and other states or other teams. It was a controversial move because how do you dismiss a quality coach, a quality human being in Mark Richt, who had a .740 winning percentage, had really resurrected or brought UGA to new levels of success, wasn't quite able to get into the national championship picture. This is what Kirby Smart was hired to do. This is what he's done. Second year in a row. This will be the first time in many years. I believe the last team to win back-to-back national championships might have been Alabama. But if Georgia wins on Monday evening at SoFi Stadium in Inglewood, California against TCU, it'll be the second back-to-back national championship title for UGA. This is what he was expected to do, and he's succeeding so far, at least until now.
And I think you mean when they win. We're certainly following all of that excitement. I've already seen the fans come out strong in support of their journey to LA, but just also wishing them well. You know, this is a historic moment either way for them to be flying out, the national defending champions. We have a lot to cover with you today. We're going to take you along the route of following the players from Athens all the way to ATL Airport and then wishing them that safe journey to Inglewood, California. But right now, what we are following is their arrival to these bus stations. So I'm going to pull this up here. You can see this live shot. These are the buses that are going to take the UGA Dawgs all the way to ATL, and we're going to follow them every step of the way. Our photojournalist Ismir Payton is out there right now bringing us this live shot. I'm actually going to try to get him on the phone because I know he's been there all morning long and just get a better idea from Athens what the energy is out there, because I gotta say, here in Atlanta, we're big Dawgs fans, but I think the Athens community, this is so personal for them.
It is very personal, and some of the things I'm just going to be looking for as we follow this through aerial shots and on the ground. The players, obviously the buses are ready. They are ready, gassed up, ready to go to head to Atlanta. I'm very interested to see what kind of highway support that the team may encounter along the way, what route they're going to be taking, whether or not it'll be 316 to 85 to the downtown connector, then to 85 to the airport, or whether it'll be Highway 78 or 29. And they're kind of zooming in on a couple of coaches and personnel. We'll be keeping an eye out for the Dawgs major stars, Stetson Bennett IV, who could have foreseen a couple of years ago that this 25-year-old, sixth-year senior who came back for another year after winning the 2021 national championship would come back for one more year and another shot at gridiron glory. Will he go down in history as one of the greatest Georgia Bulldogs ever, right next to Herschel Walker and some other very hallowed and storied names, or will his national championship quest end unsuccessfully? Will this be the highlight of his athletic career? A lot of questions regarding whether or not Stetson Bennett IV has the necessary arm strength to make a successful NFL career, but those are some of the things that we'll be talking about over the next few hours.
And I do believe we have our Izmir Payton on the phone with us. Izmir, you've been out in Athens all morning long. What's going on out there? Let us know.
Well, good morning, Maria. I can tell you that right now we're just all in anticipation out here. I am on Pinehurst Avenue in South Rockford. This is right outside the Georgia Athletics Complex, and we're sitting looking at these coach buses, just waiting for the players to file out of the building and into those buses so they can make their way to Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport. But I can tell you that there's some fans that have started to gather a little bit to wish these guys off, and definitely a buzz in the air as everyone's just kind of looking for a glimpse of them before they get on the buses and get on the road. Yeah, actually just a couple of minutes ago I spoke to a couple who actually attended UGA back in the 80s, and they were here just to show their support for the team as they made their way off, and they were just really excited, simply carrying the emotion from last year into this season and again another national championship run. They said last year they watched the team from on TV through the chopper video that we provided, leaving and coming back and all that stuff. And they said this year they weren't going to miss it. They wanted to see it with their own eyes. They wanted to be on campus. They wanted to yell and scream and cheer on the faithful as they hopefully make their way to another national title. So again, I think that's really the sentiment for a lot of folks out here, that last year was magical, and we're feeling a little bit of the same thing going on right now as we zoom in. Again, just people milling around, kind of waiting for the players to show up.
Certainly, Izmir, I gotta say, I'm a little jealous that you're over there. Being in the same area that these players are about to be in, hopefully these new national champions, I gotta say, we all have high hopes for them. We know what they can do. We know the strengths of these players. What are your feelings about this game?
Well, I'll tell you, Marita, I am a sports fan. I can't tell you that I'm necessarily a UGA fan, but from what I've seen of them playing this season, they are lights out. I mean, they are playing really at a different level than all of their competition. Even when we saw in the semifinal game, they were tested right up until the very end. But they showed some resilience, I would dare say championship resilience, that you don't often see from young men. But they were able to battle back and really show some fortitude and play through adverse conditions and pull off a win. And that's really the test of a champion sometimes, is how you're able to battle back through adversity. And again, their record just shows. I mean, they've got 20-plus wins in a row here, and their closest call was just last week. So hopefully they can keep that momentum going that they've had all season long and carry it over into this last very important game.
All right, Izmir, we'll be continuing to follow your shot that you're bringing us, waiting for these UGA Dawgs to come out and then begin their journey to ATL. I want to thank you so much for just sharing this with us.
No problem, and go Dawgs.
Oh my gosh. So a lot of excitement, and I just wanted to mention, as we're looking at this, we have a team out in Inglewood right now. Our anchors Ella Dorsey, Rob Hughes, reporters Alan Devlin, Patrick Quinn, so many others that are in LA just capturing the experience and this moment, and we're gonna bring you along for that journey, get you the full front row seats to that experience. But right now, the focus on the Dawgs and getting them at the starting line of their journey to ATL and then to California.
Well, and one of the things that Ishmael was mentioning, the fact that the Dawgs are really playing at a truly elite national championship level. The most recent Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, in which they pulled off just a literal last-minute victory against Ohio State University. At the stroke of midnight, Ohio State is driving, going to make a field goal to win the game, goes wide to the left. Literally, at that very same second, the Peach was dropping at Underground Atlanta. And so it was just an incredible situation. One of the differences that between Mercedes-Benz Stadium, where the Dawgs last played, and SoFi Stadium, where they're going to be playing Monday night, is the size of the stadium. SoFi Stadium seats just over 70,000 people. I imagine there's probably some standing room only tickets, and they'll be able to get a few more folks in there. But Mercedes-Benz Stadium, all-time stadium record of more than 79,000 people on New Year's Eve night at the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. I was there. I've been a volunteer for the Peach Bowl for many, many years. And I was just talking with some of our volunteers who have been with UGA throughout the entire week. The Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl is really put on and run by some very amazing staffers and volunteers. And one of our team liaisons for UGA just mentioned to me how precise, how organized, and how exacting Kirby Smart and his coaching staff are. Everything is planned from a team standpoint and from a player standpoint, right down to the minute, right down to the second. If we're going to have stretching on the field at Mercedes-Benz at 10:17 a.m., you can bet that's what's going to happen. That's the level of organization and dedication and coordination that Kirby Smart was brought to UGA to foster, and we're seeing the results of it now. He has not had a losing season. He has his least successful season, I believe, was the season after he was hired. Georgia went 8-5, made another consecutive bowl appearance, and ever since then it's just been reaching new heights. Even during the pandemic year, Georgia made a bowl appearance in 2020, won the national championship against Alabama last year with a very, very strong second half appearance, and has just been rolling ever since. Of all the teams that could have had a shot at knocking UGA from the pinnacle, you have to argue that Ohio State was the team to do it. C.J. Stroud, who is going to be a #1 NFL draft pick, played the game of his life on New Year's Eve night, and still Ohio State came up short. Maybe this is another year of destiny for UGA. We'll find out in just a few days.
I gotta say, I haven't had the privilege of growing up under the UGA fandom, I should say, and following these guys, but over the past year and a half, I've gotten to see the energy and the support and the love that people here in Georgia have for the Dawgs, and that has been mind-blowing, for football to be so much more to people here. And a part of that that we saw, that magic unfold that you described, was at that New Year's Eve Peach Bowl game, that one extra point that made today what it is. And I gotta say, as a bowl volunteer, I'm sure you watched that game. I'm sure a lot of us were out watching that game. What was going through your mind when that final score was called?
It was interesting because as we were watching the game unfold, several volunteers, several folks came into the room where I was, just kind of shaking their heads and saying, man, this just doesn't seem to me to be Georgia's night. It was a hard-fought, slogging game full of thrills, really the culmination of the continuing the atmosphere as we see UGA players now exiting their facility and getting on the buses that will take them from Athens to Hartsfield, Jackson, Atlanta International, and then on to LA later today. Kind of a wide shot there in Athens, thanks to our crews for Atlanta News First in Athens. But what you were saying was, what was the atmosphere? It was a back and forth game, just thrilling for both OSU and UGA fans. It was almost like a UGA home game at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, given the fact that Georgia has such a massive UGA fan base, and it was just elation, loud. I mean, as loud a celebration and as joyous a celebration for a UGA victory as I've ever seen.
And I gotta say, I wanted to bring that full shot back just to really capture this moment. Those players look serious, but they look ready and confident, and I love seeing that.
They are prepared. Kirby Smart and his team of outstanding coordinators and coaches will not leave any stone unturned. The fact that you have a head coach who is fully invested in the program. Just think, I mean, after Alabama defeated Georgia in the national championship years ago, when Kirby Smart had already been hired to be the head coach at UGA, 12 hours after that victory, he was in Athens setting up shop and fully committed and invested to his job and his program. As I've said before, this is the expected result. And now, from a fan base, if Georgia wins on Monday night against TCU, they are already a 12 to 20 point favorite, according to some of the Las Vegas sports betting books. What will happen then? Stetson Bennett will leave UGA. I can't imagine him being allowed to come back for a seventh year. Who will be the new quarterback? Who will be the new team leader? Several defensive freshmen will remain on the team. They're already, racking up very solid NCAA records and leading the team both athletically and in the locker room. Will UGA fans come to expect national title after national title? That's a wonderful shot of a young future UGA grad, I imagine.
Dogs beat the frogs. I like that. I want to take a moment and just listen in, see if we can hear anything from Izmir. All right, not a whole lot of conversation, but you can see the smiles from the fans, from the people that showed up to support them just in this moment. We, of course, are going to follow them along. I see a couple more people did join this live stream, so I just want to let you guys know we are going to be following the Dawgs all the way from Athens, where they are right now, right outside the UGA Athletic Complex, all the way to ATL for their flight to Inglewood, California, where they'll be playing against the TCU Horned Frogs at SoFi Stadium.
And TCU in the national championship semifinal game that took place also earlier on New Year's Eve, pulled out just a thrilling victory against number 2 Michigan, and Jim Harbaugh, a head coach at Michigan for the Wolverines who has extensive NFL experience, could be heading back to the NFL if he's offered the right job. TCU is under a first-year head coach, Sonny Dykes, an offensive just genius, really pulling the Texas Christian University out of Fort Worth into the national spotlight. TCU is a true underdog, a true Cinderella story in terms of the National Football Championship under NCAA Division I. Really just took everything that Jim Harbaugh and the University of Michigan could throw at him on New Year's Eve earlier in the game. I believe that was in the Fiesta Bowl before the Peach Bowl. I may be incorrect on that. And now is headed to a massive stage. This is the 9th NCAA Division I football championship, bowl championship series that was implemented not quite 10 years ago to solve the dilemma of how do you crown an NCAA Division I football championship. The Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, Fiesta Bowl, Orange Bowl, Rose Bowl, Sugar Bowl are part of the New Year's Six NCAA Bowl championship system. And this was the year the Fiesta and Peach Bowl were rotated into the college football semifinal championship, and you know, here we go. It's going to be a great game. I'm sure there are a lot of UGA fans who believe that the Dawgs should have no problem handling TCU, but do not count out the magic that TCU is experiencing right now, similar to what perhaps UGA first experienced last year, and prior to that 4 or 5 years ago, when UGA lost to Alabama in the national championship on a fourth quarter Tua Tagovailoa drive that has been sure burned into the memories of a lot of UGA fans.
What do you think they have to pack for a journey like this?
Oh,
I mean, I imagine, you know, the typical gear, clothes, but I wonder if these guys have some good luck charms that they bring with them.
I imagine they do. You can see kind of a crowd of onlookers, you know, young UGA fans wishing the Dawgs good luck. You're talking.
They mean business.
They mean business,
They're serious.
and this is you know, you were talking about how college football is truly ingrained in the South's imagination, and part of that, I think you just have to understand that it wasn't until 1966 that any professional major league team of any sport located to the South, and that was when the Milwaukee Braves officially moved to Atlanta in the then brand new Atlanta Stadium. Prior to that, the Deep South only knew college football, which is why, and there are still no professional major league teams in Alabama, Mississippi, Kentucky, Arkansas, South Carolina, Virginia.
And I do have some comments already, some questions coming in. Zach McCoy asking, go Dawgs, first of all, but of course, are they going to the airport? Yes, we are going to be following them from our chopper camera that I'll pull up here briefly. It's experiencing some technical issues, but we'll get that back. We'll be following them all the way to ATL, giving them a proper send-off and good luck where they head to California to play against TCU in the national championship game.
And we see some other folks lining the sidewalk as the players and their Georgia State Patrol escort. They will have a full police escort from Athens to Hartsfield. I imagine they have chartered a jet from Atlanta to LAX. And so, yeah, just going back to the history of college football for many, many decades here in the Deep South. Loyal fan bases, UGA, Georgia Tech, Alabama, South Carolina, Florida, Ole Miss. College football is just truly the undisputed king here in the Deep South because, you know, the rivalries, Georgia has bitter rivalries with Atlanta's own Georgia Tech, Auburn, Florida, the rivalry with Alabama simply because of the dominance of Nick Saban, head coach there. The Georgia-Florida game is known as, or has been known until recently, as the world's largest cocktail party. Georgia-Auburn is a bitter rivalry, and other states, Auburn, Alabama, Ole Miss, Mississippi State.
Look at how many fans are out there, though. These players already boarding the bus, some still making it onto the bus, but the fans just lining up on both sides of the streets to let them know that that support is already there, and it's just going to continue into Monday night. I actually wanted to bring up something we've been discussing in the newsroom, and that was the flights that have gone out to Inglewood, to LA. Those tickets are up there in the 2000s range, possibly more, and that's just to get to the game. For a lot of Dawgs fans, you know, this is a historic moment. This is worth it for them. But I gotta say, between the ticket prices, the flights, the places you have to stay, hotel, transportation, it is going upwards of like $5,000 to $7,000 for a lot of these Dawgs fans. They are trying to make it happen to be there for their boys.
They are, and this is just testament to not only how important this game is, not only to the job that the NCAA has done in promoting this bowl championship series, but the devoted fan base. If you were not able to attend the national title game last year and you made a vow to yourself that, by gosh, come what may, if the Dawgs make it to Inglewood, I'm going. What's going to happen next year? The next 2024 national championship game is at NRG Stadium in Houston, Texas.
We're going to be there.
We're going to be there. Yeah. But you know, let's not also discount some of the other college football programs here in Georgia. Georgia Tech, arguably what has been UGA's most bitter rival over the decades, has fallen on some unsuccessful times lately. The games, the year-end classics to wrap up each individual regular season have not been as competitive as they have been. But I remember many times when Georgia Tech was a dominant football power over UGA, much to the consternation of a lot of UGA fans. So Georgia State, my alma mater, Georgia Southern, Kennesaw State, Valdosta State, all of those have very solid fan bases, and it's just yet another piece of evidence and another indication of how hugely profitable and popular college football is in the state of Georgia.
Now, we are following these guys off of our Atlanta News First chopper camera. Just keep in mind it might cut signal in and out, but we're going to try to bring you this live picture. And you can see, there we go, the buses have departed. We're going to get that signal back here shortly. They are officially on their way to ATL Airport.
And now what I'm kind of curious to see is the route that they'll be taking and whether or not people will be lining the highways. Don't know yet. We'll find out.
I did hear that they are getting a police escort. We saw that the officers, law enforcement there, ready to go. So we'll continue to follow that. As soon as we get our Atlanta News First chopper feedback, we will bring that to you. But let's take a look at what is actually happening at the airport. We have our LA crews who have captured the fan excitement out in LA, and we have our fans here in Georgia possibly making their way that we've also spoke to. So check this out.
I've been waiting on this day for a long time, so on the way to LA to see the Dawgs play.
How do you feel?
I feel real good about it.
Way excited. Go Georgia Bulldogs is all I can say.
Feeling good. Having a little morning brew here. After, of course, I had breakfast, Mom. Don't worry. But I'm feeling good.
We're on our way to winning.
I love it. And I mean, what do you think is going to happen? Any predictions? How's TCU going to
I think it'll be a good ball game, certainly in the first half, but I think Georgia's depth, experience, remember we played in this last year, all those are important factors, and I think we'll win the game easily in the second half.
And why are y'all such big Georgia fans?
Well, we have a second home in Athens, and I went to Georgia.
And I'm going to Georgia next year.
This is the perfect way to ring in freshman year, basically.
Yes, ma'am.
And what are you going to be doing in LA in the meantime?
We've got, a lot of sightseeing, and we lived there at one point in our life, so we know it. She's never spent much time there, so we'll do the normal stuff, Beverly Hills, other things. But it'll be a fun trip. But we're there to win the championship.
All right. Anything else y'all want to say?
No, go Dawgs.
Go Dawgs.
Go Dawgs. I love that it brings families together. You know, this is not just football. This is a moment to just celebrate the thing we all love, the Georgia Bulldogs, come together and just be there with each other in this historic moment.
How many University of Georgia graduates? How many Arizona State graduates? How many Georgia Tech, Georgia State graduates? TCU.
I'm an Arizona State graduate.
That's why I mentioned that. How many families have deep lineages and deep lineal ties to universities? Fathers, children, grandfathers, grandchildren, all linked together by just the unique experience, the unique lineal experience, the unique familial links that colleges offer and college football offers. We see the buses departing the lovely campus there at Athens at the University of Georgia with their very formidable Georgia State Patrol police escort that will see them all the way to Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport. Kirby Smart, if he wins on Monday, will become the first University of Georgia head football coach to win 2 national championships. Wally Butts won a championship with a very different playoff scenario way back in 1942, and obviously the legendary Vince Dooley, who passed away only months ago, winning in 1980. Mark Richt, Ray Goff, some of the other coaches never made it to the national championship game. Kirby Smart has done it twice, and will now make his 3rd attempt for a second national championship on Monday night.
There's a lot that this game is going to change. It's not just that they are the defending national championship champions, and this is their opportunity to win twice in a row. But as you said, so many people are impacted by this. There's so many milestones that could be reached, and that is just so exciting to be able to have that front row seat and to bring you guys along for that. Hey, comment below. How do you think Monday night is going to go? Based on your thoughts, tell us how the Peach Bowl went for you. A lot of us were out on New Year's Eve. The game was everywhere. I mean, I saw it on every monitor while I was out and about, but we are working on getting our Atlanta News First chopper feedback. In the meantime, let's get you over to Fred Khalil with a look at what you can expect.
There were those that doubted whether or not TCU should even be in the college football playoff. And all the Horned Frogs did was pull off the biggest upset in CFP history, knocking out the 2-seed Michigan 51-45. And although it was just right after the game, the Georgia Bulldogs had this to say about the Horned Frogs.
I just know the quarterback. They got a physical receiver, big tall receiver. Their line is pretty good. Their running back is pretty straight downhill runner. I know something about them.
Nothing about TCU, just that they're a good team. They're in the top 2 right now. They won tonight. That's it. Yeah, that's all.
The top-ranked Bulldogs will likely leave for Los Angeles late next week. As for TCU, the Horned Frogs will be looking for their first national championship, and they'll do it against the Bulldogs team that's trying to go back-to-back for the first time since Alabama did it a little over a decade ago. At Mercedes-Benz Stadium, Fred Khalil, Atlanta News First.
Firemaker will be serving red beer for Georgia fans come Monday night in honor of those Bulldogs in the national championship. And you know what? We're going to go ahead and pour one here for you so you can get a sense of what it looks like. And for those few TCU fans that are here in the state of Georgia, well, they'll have purple beer for you too. But hey, doesn't red look much better?
Cheers.
Georgia fans raised a glass for what they hope will be a championship Monday night at Firemaker Brewing. Management here hopes to turn what is typically a slow evening into a financial winner.
I would love for it to be at least like 75% to 100% boost, or 300% boost would be awesome. I would rather it be like, dang, we got rocked.
Staff is prepared to handle large crowds, and they've been working hard to get their brews ready for game night.
Back here, this is the big one we really like. This is our Calamity Jane. This is going to be our nice, easy drinking light beer. This is what we're really going to be pouring a lot of for the game on Monday.
And just around the corner, Scofflaw Brewing Company at the Works on Chattahoochee Road is also expecting big business. The UGA Alumni Association will be hosting a watch party here for the College Football National Championship.
Yeah, I'm a Georgia girl. I was born and raised Georgia, so I'm a big fan of UGA myself, but I'm also of the mindset of I just want everyone to have a good time and just come and hang out. But no, I'm rooting for UGA.
And back at Firemaker, they've thrown in promotions like $10 pitchers of red or purple beer. Plus, if you show up in your Georgia or TCU jersey and your team wins, you walk out with a 6-pack of beer at the end of the night.
Maybe they'll be superstitious, and in following years they'll be like, we got to go back to Firemaker to watch the game. They won. I wore this shirt and I bought this beer, and there we go.
All right, well, the table is set for a special Monday night, so why not give a toast, right? Here's a toast to what we hope will be back-to-back national championships for the Georgia Bulldogs. Cheers.
Oh, cheers. I loved that. Let's get you back to our aerial view right here. UGA Dawgs making their way to Hartsfield Jackson Atlanta International Airport, where they will take off for Inglewood, California. They're going to land at LAX later today. We'll bring you that live coverage from our team that's in LA already. We try to beat them there. Our Ella Dorsey, Rob Hughes, Alan Devlin, Patrick Quinn, other members of our team all in LA waiting for the Dawgs, waiting to follow them and support them every step of the way.
And let's talk a little bit about SoFi, and we can talk a little bit about SoFi Stadium. For many, many years, the National Football League did not have a presence in LA after 1995, when the Los Angeles Rams departed the City of Angels for St. Louis because of money issues, the lack of a new stadium in LA. And just only a few years ago, the owner of the St. Louis Rams, Stan Kroenke, led the effort to secure funding for a new state-of-the-art, literally in every sense of the word, stadium in Inglewood, California, now known as SoFi Stadium. It's a facility that is newer than our own Mercedes-Benz Stadium and has many of the same amenities, luxury boxes, technological advances such as the circular scoreboard and camera view screens above the audiences, above the stands. Seats just over 70,000 people, and is the only other stadium outside of MetLife in Rutherford, New Jersey, to host or to be home to 2 NFL teams. Both the Los Angeles Chargers and Los Angeles Rams play at SoFi Stadium, similar to the New York Giants and New York Jets, who play at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey. So it is just a state-of-the-art facility. From what we understand, the stadium is not allowing any kind of pre-game tailgating to take place, given probably the very rowdy, uncontrollable aspects that college football fans are known to exhibit. But that's no problem, according to Georgia Governor Brian Kemp, who says there will be tailgating galore on National Championship Monday before and after the game.
I am so glad you brought that up, because that is something I want to talk about. The 2 shots you're looking at right now, our Atlanta News First chopper on your left-hand side following UGA. We are going in and out of signal, so just keep that in mind. And of course, TCU on the right from our sister station, bringing you that live shot, of course, their community, their state really supporting them in this historic moment.
This is a true Cinderella story for the Texas Christian University Horned Frogs. They are experiencing something that we have experienced before. Just as a sports fan in Atlanta, whether or not you were thrilled by the Atlanta Braves World Series victory 2 years ago, whether or not you were thrilled when the Atlanta Falcons under then head coach Dan Quinn and Matt Ryan, head quarterback, went to the Super Bowl a few years ago. Now we're looking at this massive outpouring of adulation and adrenaline on behalf of a team that, as our own veteran, longtime Atlanta sports reporting legend Fred Khalil said just a few moments ago, they weren't even supposed to be here. This is a true Cinderella story, and you kind of have to wonder if that just doesn't put more pressure on UGA. UGA was widely, even though UGA opened the season ranked number 4, which was kind of an insult, given the fact that they were the defending national champions, Now they're here. They didn't dominate, but they're undefeated, 14-0. Texas Christian University is 13-1. Their first, they took on the mighty, legendary Jim Harbaugh and the University of Michigan Wolverines in a nationally televised game that Frank Khalil called probably the greatest upset in college football playoff history, now making their way to SoFi Stadium. Kirby Smart, I think, really has a job ahead of him to keep his players focused and not looking past what is a very dangerous offensive team in TCU.
And that right there, that is a shot of Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport. This is going to be the plane that takes the UGA Dawgs to California for hopefully another national championship title.
And it is specially chartered. You can see just behind the cockpit the UGA mascot and the signature of the
Vincent
most
Dooley.
beloved Georgia football coach really of all time, Vince Dooley, who sadly we lost this past year. But just truly a quality individual and a name synonymous with gridiron greatness here in Athens. Just a truly beloved individual.
This is amazing to follow. I mean, we took you earlier in the stream, if you were with us, to Athens, where the UGA players boarded the bus, and you saw the community support that took place there. And now that same level of support seen just outside of TCU, the teams making their way through, already on the road really, to Los Angeles. Of course, our team is headed to ATL, going to board this Delta plane that you're looking at right here. And that plane, by the way, looks ready. The staff are standing by, and they are ready to roll out.
And it's kind of ironic. I'll go out on a limb right now and say I'm seeing more support for TCU among their fans than we saw outside the University of Georgia. We saw a few handful of fans, you know, coming out to wish their team and their athletes, sons, grandsons, nephews, whomever, the best of luck in Inglewood. But I'm seeing a lot more support just from our aerial shot outside of Texas Christian University. They seem to have truly captured their community's imagination, and you have to just imagine, Maria, that the Delta pilots and air traffic control is going to be just right on schedule in terms of departure and arrival. And if they're not, you're going to hear a lot from Kirby Smart, I imagine.
And you got to understand, I mean, these guys, the last time they won a national championship, 1938. This is such a big moment for TCU.
It's a huge moment for them. They've never played on a bigger stage than what they did on New Year's Eve afternoon. A nationally televised game on ESPN, the first of the two college football playoff games that day. Just a nail-biter, thrilling from start to finish, only to be followed by an equally thrilling Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl that saw University of Georgia win barely, just by the oh so very closest of margins against a very solid quarterback in Ohio State. C.J. Stroud playing the game of his life on his way to quite possibly an NFL career, and the Ohio State Buckeyes.
And I gotta say, Tim, we're getting a nice momentum of comments that I want to read through as people are watching this live stream. So somebody's saying, Michael, actually, I have the Dawgs winning on Monday by 40 points. What do you think of that?
40 points, I think that's kind of a stretch there. What was his name, Michael?
Michael Baxter.
Sorry, Michael. I'm not.
I think
by 40 points. Well,
they could do it.
I mean, Vegas has Georgia at 12.5. Mm-hmm. Caesar Sportsbooks has Georgia 12.5. So they're the favorite. That's giving a lot of credit to me a 12.5 point spread is truly recognizing the potency of TCU. Now they have, if you were watching the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, Ohio State University has a wide receiver, Marvin Harrison Jr., who is the son of Marvin Harrison Sr. of Indianapolis Colts fame. Really made life in the secondary quite uncomfortable for Stetson Bennett and his receivers, and yet this Texas Christian University has an equally potent wide receiver, and I'm trying to find his name now in my notes, but who may be an even better prospect at wide receiver, currently playing for Texas Christian University. So UGA will have its work cut out for them in the secondary. I fully expect it to be a high-scoring game, but let's also remember what happened last year in the national championship game between Georgia and Alabama. Alabama was leading 9-6 at halftime. In a truly defensive contest, Georgia exploded, literally just exploded on offense during the second half, on their way to a solid, overwhelming victory against Kirby Smart's mentor and Georgia's old nemesis, Nick Saban. So anything can happen. We've seen anything that has transpired over the past couple of weeks. College football is more competitive than ever. The athletes, the training, the recruiting, the transfer portal has made a huge impact in terms of the competitiveness of college football.
Now, another comment here saying, when do they, I assume the Dawgs, leave for LA? We are told that they're going to officially depart from ATL at 1 o'clock. Now that time, we'll cross that bridge when we get there, essentially, but right now they are en route to ATL from Athens, on their way to Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport. And you can see on the left-hand side the Dawgs, on the right-hand side TCU, and just the crowd of support.
Look at the thousands of people outside TCU watching their team depart. TCU is going to have a very solid fan base and representation at SoFi Stadium. Unlike, for the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, you had Ohio State and Georgia, both teams wearing red. I was down on the field, and with the fans all dressed in red, you couldn't really tell who was for who. But when the game started, it was a very solid home field advantage, probably 3-1. 75% UGA fans, perhaps 25 to 30% Ohio State fans. I imagine that it's going to be a little bit more equally divided for a national championship game in LA. You're going to see red and black, and I think TCU's colors, I can't quite figure out if it's a dark lavender or dark purple and white. I don't think I'm that colorblind.
A funny story about that, I was trying to pick out what outfit I would wear today, and
well, you're in red. You have to be in red.
I have to be in red, right? But I had a purple shirt in my closet, and I was like, let me just make sure. And that is when I looked up the TCU colors, and sure enough, purple. No go. If you're going to be a Dawgs fan, you might want to avoid the purple.
Absolutely, and I can't imagine a Dawg fan who probably has even an item of purple in their closet.
Exactly.
I'll probably go out on a limb and get in trouble for that, but that's okay. But no, you'll see a lot of red and black and a lot of purple and white on Monday night. It's obviously going to be a sellout. It's going to be an electric atmosphere. We have a large crew from Atlanta News First in LA. Had a little bit of a challenge getting there, a couple of delays along the way. We won't mention that. But I can't imagine that Kirby Smart and the UGA Bulldogs are going to have any trouble or delays if they have anything to do about it. If you look at the shot on the right side of our screen, the two fire ladder trucks holding up the TCU banner between them. I've seen that configuration many times, but with an American flag hanging between. But it's just an electric atmosphere at TCU. I would love to hear some on-the-ground audio from there, but you can just capture the emotion just by looking at what's happening at TCU right now.
And speaking of just some of the emotion that's happened over the course of the past few days, we are going to have in and out signal from our Atlanta News First chopper, but I'm going to keep this shot up just so that you can follow our dogs along. I know a lot of people watching this live stream just want to be there 100% every step of the way. Tailgating came up earlier in our conversation. I want to get a little bit back to that. You know, Governor Brian Kemp even said that while California may not know this, in the South, a tailgate with friends and family is the only way to prepare for a big game. When Georgia hosts the 2025 National Championship, we'll make sure fans are able to tailgate, even if it's at the state capitol. That's words directly from Governor Kemp, very passionate football supporter, very big fan of UGA, of course, but shouting a little sports I guess, excitement towards California. As we know, SoFi Stadium isn't allowing the tailgating that we usually host here in Georgia. Their rules are a little different over there, but Governor Kemp's take on that, seen in a tweet.
Well, Brian Kemp is a huge UGA fan, having, living in Athens and coming from that area. Casting a little shade on California's
that's the word I was looking for.
Democratic majority or population with Gavin Newsom. Obviously, Gavin Newsom and California and Georgia and Brian Kemp are kind of a little bit diametrically at the end of the political and social and athletic spectrums. But no, in the South, tailgating is just a part of life. I remember when, as far as for any football game, be it NFL, be it professional or college, I remember when Arthur Blank purchased the Atlanta Falcons, one of the first things he did was respond to desires and requests from fans to have extended tailgating areas outside what was then the Georgia Dome. And Arthur Blank and his new ownership went out of their way to designate areas such as the Gulch and some other areas for tailgating just to enhance the overall NFL experience. And here in Atlanta, there are numerous tailgating areas outside Mercedes-Benz Stadium where fans gather for pep rallies and music and bands and cookouts. Is something I've engaged in many times, and it's just part of the college football and the professional football experience here in Georgia.
And I gotta say, so we are following the Dawgs on their way to Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport. But for those of you just joining, I want to take a moment and show you this plane. This is the Delta plane that will be taking our Dawgs all the way to Inglewood, California, where they'll be playing in the national championship game Monday night at SoFi Stadium. All right, and getting back to and I do believe we lost our, there we go. Right when I said it, it's back. All right, we have, left-hand side is the road to ATL. Our Dawgs are on the way. Monday is coming sooner than we all think, and a lot of us are getting excited. And then TCU on the right-hand side, also on their buses, making their way to Los Angeles.
And it does look like UGA has a fleet of what appears to be about 5 buses. I'm not sure how many TCU has according to our shots, but obviously the teams are en route to their respective airports. Just going back and looking at some of the amenities at SoFi Stadium, the reason that it was built and opened in 2017, I believe the St. Louis Rams relocated back to their previous home of Los Angeles in 2016 and playing at the old LA Coliseum before SoFi Stadium opened in 2017. Obviously offers a host of luxury boxes, amenities, home to 2 professional football teams, but it will have a smaller crowd or a smaller seating capacity than what UGA experienced at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, just over 70,000 people. I imagine probably we'll see a crowd, maybe 71, close to 72,000 on Monday, but nowhere close, I can't imagine, to this more than 79,000 that witnessed UGA defeat Ohio State in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl on New Year's Eve night.
how close that was to midnight. Really put into a lot of, I feel like Georgia fans here, Georgia football fans, that this is very much a possibility for them to win 2 times in a row, bringing home that national championship title again. That Peach Bowl game, I've seen on social media people saying, you know, what luck that it happened that close to the start of the new year, and that momentum, that luck is what they're carrying, that pride for this team all the way to California.
All the way to California, and we'll see what happens. It was just a truly ironic, kind of serendipitous timing that Ohio State field goal kicker missed the 50-yard or so field goal, missed it by a mile, way wide left, right at the stroke of midnight. But there were 79,000 people in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and you know, several thousand people at Underground with the Peach Drop. That was one of the most successful nights that the city of Atlanta has enjoyed in many, many years, with the Peach Drop returning to Underground, with the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, with so many people, 79,000+ in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Yeah, I was caught in a little bit of the New Year's Eve traffic as we left the stadium around 1:30 the following morning, and yet it was just the weather was foggy. It was a little bit difficult, a little bit scary getting out of the stadium and weaving our way back through downtown Atlanta. But no traffic accidents, no incidents of overly unruly behavior. Truly, New Year's Eve and New Year's Day morning was a high point for the city of Atlanta, and we should all be just very proud of how our city conducted itself during both of those events.
And I want to take you to a clip, our sports anchor Emily Gagnon talking with Jamon Dumas Johnson actually following that game. Let's listen in real quick.
JDJ, can you describe to me how you guys were able to keep your composure throughout this one, the highs, the lows, mentally, not physically, mentally keep your composure?
You know, we preach that in practice. You know, defense had up and downs, offense had up and downs. You know, throughout practice, the player will always say, you know, use your composure card. You know, as you say, you know, calm down, everything good, cool. You know, believe in the next man to the side of you. You know, everything gonna be all right. You know, like I said, just believe in yourself. Believe in your teammate. Like I believe in Smile, man. You know, I believe in Kenny. It's that. Yeah, I believe in him.
Bullard got MVP on defense. What can you say about him tonight?
I try to tell y'all, Bull not 5'9" on the field. Bull like 6'4", 6'5". He played, man. Bull heart bigger than him, and that's all I can say, man. Bull, tough player, smart player, physical player. I ain't gonna speak on it, but Bull is different. I know I say JC different, but Javon Bullard is different.
Jamon, we talked after the LSU game. I feel like this is kind of deja vu, and I asked you about the 4 touchdowns you guys gave up. You guys gave up 5 tonight, but you won both games, so that's the good part. But the bad part is you've got a lot of work to do. Would you agree with me on that?
Yeah, I agree. You know, we come out here every day trying to prove defense still alive. You know, eventually it's gonna catch up to it, but you know, we got to keep chopping. We got to keep getting better. You know, Ohio State had a boatload of wide receivers that can do it all. You know, we just got to cover them. We got to get there. The rush got to get there. You know, to help our DBs out. We can't have them covering for 9 seconds. Anybody get open 9 seconds. But like I said, Ohio State had some good receivers. You know, all around the board.
My last question: do you know anything about TCU? I'm going to let you enjoy the night, but do you know anything about them at all?
Yeah. I just know the quarterback. You know, they got a physical receiver, big tall receiver. Their line is pretty good. Their running back is pretty straight downhill runner. You know, I know something about them.
Happy New Year.
I'm prepared to win this game.
Hey, Keely, can you walk me through the emotions of this game, the ups, the downs? You guys were behind, fought your way back. How did you keep your composure?
Just throughout the entire game, we pride ourselves on composure, resiliency, toughness, and connection. I feel like we were able to keep that throughout the entire game. And just how proud I am of my teammates, man. Just continue to look back at each other and just know that we got our back every single down. No matter no matter what happened to us. So I mean, like, I'm just so proud of them, and just the opportunity just to be in this position, man. It's a great feeling.
Listen, Kenny McIntosh just a couple of days ago told me how many times you guys had to take out your composure cards this season. This is another example. Will you remember this forever because of the adversity?
Yes, ma'am, 100%. Adversity is a huge thing to remember. Of course, it's a great feeling. Thank you so much.
Thank Kenny. On Thursday when we talked, you talked about the composure cards. How many times did your composure card come out tonight?
I composed out the whole night. My boy Nolan really had it out for real. He had the composure card out for real, walking around showing guys to stay composed, man. Definitely on the defensive side because he needed it on the defensive side of the ball to, don't beat yourself up because they got a touchdown on this play or whatever. Not, you just got to stay composed, one play at a time, keep chopping wood, and we knew things was going to end up falling in our favor, and that's what happened, and I thank God.
How were you able to keep your emotions in check through the highs and the lows of this one?
We done been through this moment before. My team definitely done fought hard, not even during games, practices. We done had tough practices before. We going out there and still, being our brother's keeper, just going out there and, caring for your brother and stuff like that. So this game really showed how we, was able to come out on top. I mean, show our resiliency and composure, and that's what we did.
Do you know anything about TCU? I know it's very early on.
Right now, I don't know nothing about TCU, just that they're a good team. They're in the top 2 right now. They won tonight. That's it. Yeah, that's all.
Some kind words there about TCU, saying they're a good team, but now the focus is really on how are they going to beat them.
Well, and let's talk a little bit about TCU. This is a Texas Christian University Horned Frogs. Very unique moniker and a very unique nickname and logo. But they are under first-year head coach Sonny Dykes, one player to watch. And this was a name that I was struggling to remember a little while ago. We were talking about the Marvin Harrison Jr., who was the Ohio State wide receiver who came up big for his team, for the Buckeyes, against UGA in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, and yet TCU has a wide receiver that really may even possess a greater skill set than Marvin Harrison Jr. in Quentin Johnson. He is already displaying the size and the speed for what could be a prototypical NFL wide receiver. So those are the players and the individual to watch for TCU. Obviously, on the UGA side, we all know the story of Stetson Bennett IV. Mm-hmm. There's an All-American tight end, Brock Bowers, who was not as much of a factor as some observers thought he should have been in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, but did come up with a couple of key catches late in the game. We obviously have tailback Kenny McIntosh. You're going to see a lot of him on Monday night. And on the defensive side, a couple of true freshmen, Michael Williams and Malachi Starks, I should say. We'll see quite a bit of them on the defensive side for the University of Georgia on Monday night in the national championship game at SoFi Stadium. Georgia and TCU have also actually met before. They've met 4 times over their history. UGA is 4-0, but I wouldn't use that as too much of a motivation because we're playing for all the marbles here on Monday night.
And I wanted to just take a moment to say our Atlanta News First chopper can only go so close to the Atlanta airport, Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport. So we will bring you this shot from our crew at ATL of the plane that's going to be taking the Dawgs all the way to California. That's what you're looking at on the left-hand side. And of course, the right-hand side, that continued aerial shot from TCU.
Nothing as far as what UGA does under Kirby Smart will happen by chance. You have to know that his team and his athletics department knew exactly the precise time they needed to depart Athens and head for Hartsfield. And this is a specially chartered jet with an excellent crew, I'm sure, that is charged with taking a very, very special group of passengers and extraordinarily expensive equipment to Los Angeles and on to Inglewood, California.
And I did just want to make a correction there. I know I said that this camera was the TCU camera. I did get my my choppers mixed up. This is our camera, the Atlanta News First chopper. You're looking at the road to ATL, where Tim and I are both like looking closer at the screen. I'm gonna full screen this because I do believe we lost the chopper shot from our sister station in Texas. We are just gonna focus on UGA right now, following the Dawgs all the way to ATL and then to California.
Well, and you can see the traffic back up. I don't imagine many of these folks are going to mind being delayed for a couple of minutes while the University of Georgia Bulldogs leave Athens and are on their way to Atlanta. We can already see traffic moving. But this is what happens when you have a Georgia State Patrol highway escort. Everything stops when you see that blue cruiser with the blue lights coming through an intersection, and you know there's something very unique happening to cause such a massive police escort, making sure that this team adheres to the very strict, very minutely prepared and detailed schedule that the University of Georgia Athletics Department has prepared for its team and for its itinerary.
So let me ask you this, Tim. I got the roster pulled up in front of me, the 2023 football roster, all of the Dawgs on there. Let's go through a little bit of who to watch out for Monday night. I know we have some obvious ones. Of course, all of these players are going to be important to the outcome of this game, but who, based on just how this season's been going, who are the standouts?
The standouts are going to be your individuals on the offensive line and the defensive line. Let's take a look. Well, we can see Kelly Ringo, who is a defensive back. He is can't tell if he is a senior or what year is he in. But
let us know in the comments.
Yeah, Kelly Ringo, we heard a lot of his name. He will be crucial. I imagine he'll be matched up in the secondary with Quentin Johnson, the wide receiver for Texas Christian University. Let's scroll down a little bit more here. Marvin Jones Jr., Dominic Blaylock, MJ Sherman, Karis Jackson, who is a wide receiver. He will be alongside Brock Bowers on the tight end side. Scrolling down a little bit more, obviously the story of Stetson Bennett IV. Michael Williams, he was the defensive lineman. 6'5", 265 pounds, homegrown from Columbus, Georgia. We'll be hearing a lot of him. He is a true freshman, but has already played, I believe he's played in all 14 games this season. Hopefully, let's see. Keep scrolling down, we're looking at just some of the more standout players on the University of Georgia roster. Tyke Smith, who is a defensive back, he'll be called upon to defend against head coach Sykes' offense, and Quentin Johnson in the defensive backfield. So those are going to be your main players. Obviously, Kenny McIntosh, who is a running back who has just been known to gash through offensive lines all throughout the University of Georgia's undefeated NCAA 2020 season.
And I'm just scrolling through here just to get just an appreciation here for all of these guys. They have a big journey ahead of them and millions of people that are supporting, possibly not supporting them in this moment, but definitely watching. And it's all going to come down to Monday night.
Well, and think about their overall collegiate experience so far. For many, there's going to be seniors who will not be back next year. Stetson Bennett will not be back next year. Who knows what his athletic future brings. But for these young men, this is This is a once-in-a-lifetime experience. The fact that some of them have been able to experience it twice may be the highlight of their athletic career. Very few college football players, seniors, will ever have a career beyond, as far as an athletic career on the field, other than their final game as a senior for whatever team they play for. So and even for those who make it into the NFL, the average NFL career lifespan is only short of just 3 years. Most players will be able to make it on special teams as a rookie or first or second year, but injuries, attrition, coaching changeovers, personnel changes, all can serve to derail a young man's dreams of playing in the NFL. UGA, much like Alabama, has graduated and had many players go on to be drafted in the NFL draft. I believe this past year, during the most recent NFL draft, 6 or 7 University of Georgia Bulldogs were drafted in the 2022 NFL draft. Some in the number 1 slots as well.
Yeah, certainly. And by the way, I wanted to take this time to let you guys know this Chasing the Championship coverage that we're doing, this is not going to end today. We are going to be with these Dogs and with the fans through Monday night, possibly into Tuesday when we're talking victories. I'm not going to get ahead of myself, but download our Atlanta News First app. We have an entire section called Chasing the Championship that is entirely dedicated to the Dogs, to this coverage of the national championship.
And on Tuesday, obviously, the teams will be heading back to their respective locations. As I recall, on New Year's Eve night and New Year's Day morning, Kirby Smart and the UGA Bulldogs did not spend the night in Atlanta. They drove quite logically and not surprisingly straight back to Athens, but there will be nights of celebration for one team and a night of many regrets come Monday night toward midnight and early Tuesday morning, and we will be covering everything. Can you imagine the elation that the city of Atlanta and the state of Georgia could feel on Tuesday morning after a game that is sure to last pretty close to midnight. Maybe even past midnight, who knows.
I will say, we have our teams out there, for those that are just joining our live stream, our anchors, Ella Dorsey, Rob Hughes, Emily Gagnon, our sports reporter, as well as our Patrick Quinn, Alan Devlin. So many members of our staff just want to take us through the LA experience, through this historic game, and hopefully a national championship title for the Dogs. We will be following along with them every step of the way. Later on today, we'll be following with full coverage of the team's arrival. I know this weekend we have Media Day. We have the press conferences from the coaches, a lot of excitement that's going to lead up to Monday night, and really just how California is preparing. We're going to take you through all of that. SoFi Stadium, where millions of people will be watching this game.
We're watching the aerial feed of UGA. It looks to me as if they might have already entered onto I-85 in Gwinnett County, heading south into downtown and past the downtown connector onto I-85, heading toward the Atlanta airport.
I just can't imagine being a driver on the road and seeing the Dogs in the other lane. I mean, I would be honored just to be driving alongside them.
I'm wondering just how many of the folks who we're seeing in their cars are actually UGA fans. I'd love to see or hear if there's anyone blowing their horns in support or what have you of UGA, the Georgia State Patrol, is a very competent, very organized law enforcement entity. If you put yourself in the hands of Georgia State Patrol and something like this, you know that it's going to be done right. Everything that Kirby Smart and the UGA Athletics Department has done over the past 6, 7, 8 years has been just precisely timed and done with the just utmost preparation and professionalism as we watch this caravan of buses head toward Atlanta's Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport. And you know that Delta crews and other personnel are on standby just waiting to have this experience. This is a game that, as you said, has media day and will have everything almost equivalent to the NFL Super Bowl in terms of media availability and events. I remember, I'll have to tell you this story, this past year when Georgia defeated Alabama, my family and I were in New York City, and we were walking around the city, and after the game we stayed up that night obviously to watch, and went to Central Park, walking around and buying a couple of souvenirs from vendors. And one gentleman asked where we were from, and we said Atlanta, and he burst into a big smile and said congratulations. So, the fact that a national championship game between the quote-unquote old guard, if you want to consider Nick Saban and Alabama the old guard, and if you want to consider Kirby Smart and UGA the future, could resonate in cities and in populations all around the country. That's a good indication of just how high profile this game is. I believe really in terms of game planning, Kirby Smart and his offensive coordinator Todd Monken, both of whom have NFL offensive or NFL coaching experience, will have a solid game plan against TCU, but I also think that overconfidence might be an issue. If you're a Georgia fan, who in the world is TCU? How did these upstarts ever make it into the national championship game against a top 5 team such as the University of Georgia? Be prepared for at least I am preparing for a very hard-fought, very competitive game that may look entirely different at halftime than what we're actually thinking of right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And hey, coming up, just to let you know, we will be talking to our managing editor, Josh Morgan. He's out in California, in LA, with the rest of our team. He's going to be giving us that perspective of how things are going over there. We talk about the SoFi Stadium becoming the center point of where this game will take place, where millions of people will be watching. And take a look at that. That is the stadium that is going to become just the center of attention Monday night. It already has been. I mean, we've heard from our team over there that people are already kind of gathering in that area and going there and taking it in. And part of that is just going to grow from over the weekend into Monday night, when fans who have had the privilege to make it out there to sit in person for their team, they are going to take it all in and be there for this game every minute of it.
Look at that amazing trophy that Georgia fans have seen quite a few times over the past year. There's a famous shot of Kirby Smart and some of his players kissing the trophy. SoFi Stadium is a magnificent facility. I'd love to be there to see it. It's really a truly architectural and technological marvel. Metropolitan Los Angeles is one of the world's major metropolitan areas. It's going to be the center of college and perhaps of all sports of any kind coming up, and already is, and will obviously be an entirely different scene on Monday night when more than 70,000 people, as well as the national and even perhaps the world's media contingent, descends on Los Angeles, including our own Josh Morgan, Ella Dorsey, Rob Hughes, Fred Khalil, Emily Gagnon, the outstanding sports crew and news crew and broadcast crews that we have here at Atlanta News First, going back to the aerial shot. The University of Georgia Bulldogs, I'm going to take a guess and just say they are on I-85 heading south into the city of Atlanta and then on past the downtown connector. That's going to be very interesting. I'm very curious if they are going on the downtown connector and they're going to navigate some traffic. Might be kind of interesting to see. We don't know if we'll be able to have a chopper shot that close to the airport, but we'll wait and see.
Now, I do know that we have our crew at the airport that's going to essentially pick up that coverage for us. We want to follow these guys every step of the way. I gotta say, you know, seeing them make this journey, the time has already flown. We've been talking about this for about an hour and a half, but I'm wondering if they are at this point so used to this process that they're taking a nap, not really thinking about it, or what discussions must be had on that bus during this hour and a half journey that they're making to ATL.
I'm going to lay a bet that a lot of these players have their iPhones and their iPods or Bluetooth wireless headphones listening to their favorite music. That's probably what I would be doing. Yeah, and we've seen that so many times, players entering stadiums listening to their own private beats, if you will. They have the utmost trust in their head coach, who is a master play caller. If you'll remember, there was a certain point in the Peach Bowl when Ohio State looked like it was about to fake a punt. Kirby Smart, paying ever so close attention to everything going on, was able to call a timeout that would have that so that he could prepare his team for that trick play. When you have a head coach who is that engaged, who is living so in the moment for every play, offense, defense, special teams, you have that's the kind of coach who you want to play for. That's the kind of coach who you hope will come to your house after you've just finished your high school senior season and will recruit you to come to his program. Who would not want to play for a coach that is exacting in terms of discipline, organization, what kind of dietary requirements and nutritional requirements his players need in terms of their overall conditioning? Who wouldn't want to play for a winner like a Kirby Smart or a Nick Saban? And we're going to see what happens with Georgia Tech with Brett Key as their new head coach, whether or not he can restore some glory to Georgia Tech and bring some new memories to the ages-old UGA Georgia Tech rivalry.
You know, speaking of the fans, I know we've gotten to talk to them a bit over these past few days. Really, ever since the Peach Bowl, a lot of the attention has shifted to Monday night. But some people have brought up, you know, sports betting, and I know that's always been a controversy around these big games, but so many people either having their personal bets or just having what they think the outcome is going to be. That's been a conversation that's come up during this.
It has been a conversation that has been going on, you know, really for the past couple of years with the proliferation of sports betting, FanDuel, DraftKings. All of these major online sports betting companies are huge advertisers, not only in college sports, but in every sport, every sports entertainment venue, from baseball, football, MMA, sports entertainment such as WWE and professional wrestling, boxing, hockey. Everything is really revolving or is involved in terms of online sports betting. And the laws from each state vary so widely and so vastly. Rob Hughes, who is in Los Angeles, and I did a story together earlier this year when our brand became Atlanta News First, WANF, where we looked at whether or not online sports betting could become a major issue in the General Assembly, which is a whole different story entirely. And we can talk about the Georgia General Assembly convenes on Monday, the same day as the national championship game. We know where their priorities are going to be and what everyone is going to be doing and being preoccupied with on Monday. But online sports betting came closer than it ever has come in terms of passage from the General Assembly last year. It's sure to be one of the issues that lawmakers will consider this year. There is no legalized form of online sports betting allowed in the state of Georgia. All gaming is controlled through the Georgia Lottery. All gaming revenues are specifically and legally designated to the public educational system here in Georgia. And yet FanDuel has a multi-million-dollar tech hub at Ponce City Market in Midtown Atlanta, one of Midtown's most iconic signature developments. Does FanDuel know something that we don't? Probably. So otherwise, why would they open up a hub here in Atlanta? Eventually, the tens and hundreds of millions of dollars that are being generated every year, eventually the lure of that revenue is just going to become too irresistible for lawmakers to resist. We, I believe our own statewide reporter here at Atlanta News First has done a series of articles that's online on Atlanta News First right now, looking at the likelihood of online sports betting coming up before the Georgia General Assembly.
Let's take a listen.
Right now, sports betting in Georgia is only available through offshore websites. The Sports Betting Alliance says that is unsafe. It would like to see a way for sports betting to be legalized so that it could benefit state and local governments. Last year, Representative Ron Stevens led a push to legalize sports betting. The bill failed, but this year the Republican from Savannah has hope. Incoming Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones has expressed his support. Lawmakers have differed on what should be done with the revenue. Stevens wants the money to fund the Hope Scholarship that gives money to help Georgia students start and finish college.
3.6 million families that have been touched with pre-K and Hope, so it's become this sacred cow.
Stevens says gaming legislation will require 2 bills before Georgia voters would get the final say. One bill would require a constitutional amendment, and the second would lay out exactly how the revenue will be spent.
We had some folks that testified on our extreme right that said this is the wrong thing to do. And I had to point out very quickly, you understand that every dime from Hope comes from gaming.
Within the last year, 7 states have either expanded or legalized sports betting. In Atlanta, I'm Abby Kasoris.
So back to this live shot, I see all the comments saying, "Go Dawgs," so excited for them. Just all of the support as you guys watching on this live stream are following along with us, the journey to ATL, which will eventually become the journey to Inglewood, California, where the national championship will take place Monday night.
We believe, from what I remember you saying earlier, Maria, that the flight from ATL to LA is set to board at or take off at 1 p.m. or so.
That's correct.
So we're looking at arriving at the airport significantly earlier than 1 p.m. It's going to take a lot of coordination, a lot of manpower, a lot of logistics to disembark these 5 buses and load the aircraft and head for what is, I imagine, it's about a 4-hour flight, 3.5-hour flight or so to LA, and then you have to get adjusted to the time change. But Kirby Smart and his coaching staff, I'm sure, have every moment planned out for these players, as well as just giving them a little bit of downtime to enjoy an experience that they may never again experience in such a capacity in their lifetime.
Now, I do want to say we have estimated times of the arrival of each team. I know we were earlier following TCU. We're still following UGA Dawgs. Their set arrival time right now, TCU landing at 4 p.m. Of course, they're closer than us. And then our Dawgs landing at about 6:10 p.m., assuming that flight does take off on time.
And Kirby Smart, if he has anything to do with it, he will make sure
That's
that,
right.
that it takes off on time. Atlanta, Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport is the world's busiest. That is well known. And despite the issues that some airlines have, more specifically Southwest during the winter storm, Hartsfield-Jackson is known for being as efficient as humanly possible, despite occasional travel hiccups that all of us, myself included, have experienced from time to time. But it is the signature transportation hub in the nation. Transportation, highways like what we're seeing right now, and then airports like we're going to see in just a few moments or so, perhaps another half hour or so, are the entire reason for the existence of the city of Atlanta. The city was founded as an intersection for Norfolk Southern Railroad back in the mid to late 1840s.
Now, I just wanted to say, you know, as we're following these guys, just a look ahead at what you can expect, because we are going to be here with them, the Dawgs, the fans, every step of the way until they're up in the air, headed to California. Now, there is going to be a moment, like you said, where our Atlanta News First chopper just can't get close enough to the airport, but we do have our Atlanta News First crews already at ATL, ready to bring us that on-the-ground coverage. What we're going to do here back at the station is take advantage of that little moment where we do lose our live video and our picture of the Dawgs, and catch up with our managing editor, Josh Morgan. He is in LA with the rest of the Atlanta News First team. You know, we mentioned Ella Dorsey, Rob Hughes, Emily Gagnon, Patrick Quinn, Alan Devlin. Josh will be giving us the LA perspective. I know that things are already underway there. It's not just Texas and Georgia preparing now. LA getting ready for SoFi Stadium to attract what I imagine is thousands of people, and then millions who will just be watching that game.
And I'm being very interested in hearing from our team in LA what the atmosphere is like, what kind of preparations are underway, what kind of reception these teams will be receiving. Will there be hundreds or thousands of alums, fans, what have you, prepared for their team's arrival, and what the overall media, local media, and national media is really saying about UGA and TCU. Is this going to be a cakewalk for UGA? I don't believe personally that it will be. As we said a couple of times in our broadcast and our live stream here, we're expecting what should be a very close and competitive game, and that which would just be great for college football all around.
You know, I feel like regardless of which team you're rooting for or how you're watching this game and with what mindset, this is going to be historic no matter what. We talked about TCU. Last time they won, it was 1938. So if they can take this title home, this is going to be a big moment for those guys, the Horned Frogs. It's going to be a big moment for Texas Christian University fans, as well as football fans that are rooting for that team across the country. But then on the other side of it, if UGA can win this title, this is going to be a back-to-back championship. A lot of people are going to make history that night, should that take place.
And University of Georgia will make its own history if they win back-to-back championships on Monday night. That has never happened for UGA. Kirby Smart will become the first UGA coach in history to have won more than one national championship. This is his third appearance in a BCS national championship game. First, in 2017, they fell short to Alabama. Last year, they defeated Alabama with a strong, amazingly resilient second half surge that really became almost akin to a blowout. There are no moral victories for football teams and players and coaches, but if TCU, being a 12.5 point underdog, if they lose and if UGA wins and they're able to play competitively and keep the score close, maybe you're looking at a moral victory for TCU. On the other hand, if the expectation for UGA is to simply blow out the Horned Frogs and that doesn't happen, does that cast a little bit of a shadow? Have we gotten a little too spoiled? As I've seen so many other sports dynasties, New England Patriots, Alabama Crimson Tide, LA Lakers, you name it, all of the great sports dynasties over the past couple of decades become so accustomed to winning, akin to what happened with the Atlanta Braves in the 1990s with 14 straight consecutive division titles and yet only one World Series win, several World Series appearances, but only one win. Are we entering, if UGA should handily win this on Monday night, are we looking at the same sort of atmosphere?
And I gotta say, you know, we had a chance to speak to the Dawgs after the Peach Bowl. Our Emily Gagnon was out there talking to some of these players, and she asked, you know, what do you know about TCU? And really, the response has been respectful. They acknowledged they were a good team, and I think if they carry that mindset with them and don't kind of let their previous championship win kind of give them false confidence, then that's really going to be the focus here, is understanding that this is going to be a close game.
Don't be surprised if we see TCU really becoming sort of a media darling, if you will, because this is the Cinderella story. And what would happen if, to the UGA mindset or psyche, if this game goes into the late fourth quarter and Georgia is battling for its second straight national championship? One thing that Kirby Smart and his coaches tell their players, win the fourth quarter. You have to win the fourth quarter to have a chance at winning the game. We saw that on New Year's Eve when Georgia struggled throughout the game, was behind at one point by 2 scores. Stetson Bennett, Todd Monken, offensive coordinator, worked their magic. Brock Bowers, Kenny McIntosh, some of the key players on the offensive side of the UGA football team came through in the fourth quarter and, you know, literally won it within the game's last 2 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do believe we are getting pretty close to Hartsfield Jackson Atlanta International Airport, following along with our Dawgs. If you're just joining us, I do see a couple more people that have jumped on the stream. We have been following these guys all the way from the athletic complex in Athens on this bus ride essentially to ATL, where they will take off from this Delta flight that you're looking at, a very significant Delta flight. If you recognize that signature, you know that is the signature of Vince Dooley, who we lost recently. So I do want to just take a moment and acknowledge, you know, this is the flight that's going to carry our team to a historic game in California at the SoFi Stadium.
Kirby Smart became the third head coach for University of Georgia to win a national championship. It's kind of a trivia question, but the first national championship Georgia won was in 1942 under head coach Wally Butts. But in the modern era, Vince Dooley, winning in 1980 in the Sugar Bowl against Notre Dame, had the legendary running back Herschel Walker as a star player who would win who's a Heisman Trophy winner. Georgia went undefeated that year, defeating Notre Dame in the Sugar Bowl and winning what was the consensus national championship. Now, with the advent of the Bowl Championship Series, this is its 9th edition. We, despite any objections or flaws or feelings about the system or its equity or fairness one way or another, this is the recognized platform that we use to crown a national football championship in the NCAA Division I. Kirby Smart's coaching record since he joined UGA in December 2015. In 2016, he went to the Liberty Bowl with a record of 8-5. That was UGA's 20th consecutive bowl appearance in 2016. 2017 was an incredible season. He went 11-1. Georgia won the SEC title and defeated Oklahoma in the Rose Bowl and advanced to the national championship game where we lost to Alabama. Following year, 2018, another record of 11-1, winning the Eastern Division title in the Southeastern Conference and going to the All-State Sugar Bowl in New Orleans. 2019, Georgia had a number 4 ranking throughout the season, defeated Baylor again in the All-State Sugar Bowl in New Orleans. 2020 was a pandemic year. UGA and Kirby Smart went to the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl and defeated the undefeated, at that point, undefeated Cincinnati Bearcats, who was being coached, or the quarterback for Cincinnati in the 2020 Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl against UGA was current Falcons starting quarterback Desmond Ridder, who went undefeated at home in Cincinnati, but Cincinnati lost to Georgia in 2020 in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. And 2021, we all know, Georgia wins the national championship. So Kirby Smart has a long winning record as a head coach, and this is what he was hired to do, to bring this winning pedigree and championship culture and mentality to Athens and the University of Georgia.
And I do believe we are nearing that time where we might lose our Atlanta News First chopper shot. Like I mentioned before, they can only get so close to the airport just for safety reasons. At that time, we will take you to our crew that's at ATL on the ground following this, and hopefully catch these players boarding the Delta flight that will ultimately take them to California. And look how close we've gotten already.
Look how close. I would love to see Coach Smart and his team to see some shots of them exiting their buses and boarding the plane, and then seeing the planes take off. And that would be an amazing shot as we see the UGA caravan of coaches and players entering the terminals at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport, the busiest air terminal in the world.
I know you mentioned that the Dawgs have Kirby Smart to kind of put their trust in, and that really brings a peace of mind when they're on this journey and getting ready to go to such a big game where millions will be watching. But I do wonder, for Kirby Smart, what must be on his mind right now that he sees the plane, it's real, it's happening, there's no turning back.
I think Coach Smart is all business. He is fully engaged in what he is doing in the moment. Right now, he's simply making sure that there is a smooth departure. He's trusting his staff of assistants. He is not overwhelmed by the moment. This is his 3rd national championship game. He has earned the respect and the confidence of Bulldog Nation and all University of Georgia fans, not only throughout the state of Georgia, but the Southeast and the nation. This moment is not too big for this head coach. This is his pedigree. This is what he is being paid to do. He's succeeding, and the game still has to be played. He knows that. He knows he has to keep his team focused and disciplined. This moment isn't too big for Coach Smart. He might have been a little overwhelmed in 2017 when they went all the way to the national championship game, only to fall short to Alabama. But he has the full faith and confidence in himself and his staff and his players. And I'm sure Delta Airlines as well.
And Delta Airlines is really looking at this moment closely. I mean, this is an awesome responsibility for them to deliver these players to Los Angeles, and then for the millions of people who are following them. For you guys who are watching on our live stream, this is a big moment for Delta too.
Delta is synonymous with Atlanta, is an Atlanta iconic symbol. Mayor Williams Hartsfield, back in the 1940s, was the mayor of Atlanta who persuaded this struggling airline to relocate from the bayous of Louisiana to a massive spot of acreage in South Atlanta, and Delta has become synonymous with the city. It is one of the world's most globally recognized symbols and airlines. It is as synonymous with Atlanta as Coca-Cola is, just a global brand. It has seen its ups and downs, as many airlines and many businesses have over the years, with the pandemic and 9/11 and multiple recessions. But it has remained loyal to its commitment to the city, to the airport, and providing the best customer service that it possibly can. This is a moment that is not too big for Delta, because when Atlanta sports teams travel to national championship events, the Braves, the Falcons, UGA Bulldogs, it doesn't matter. Delta is the unquestioned choice for their travel needs and responsibilities.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do believe we do have our close-up shot here. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Those are the buses. I believe the players are still on the buses at this time. I'm getting some updates, but they will be coming off of those buses, headed to that Delta flight, and essentially taking off for LA.
Taking off for LA at 1 p.m., if I believe our times are correct, and landing shortly after 6 p.m. local time, which is going to be about 2 p.m. Pacific time, if my math is correct.
Right.
So we are waiting for UGA players and coaches to depart.
You know, we brought up, I think, at the very start of this stream that our teams that have since made it out to LA were experiencing delayed flights and the typical issues that a lot of us were experiencing around the holidays and recently as they made their way to LA. But I just don't think that's going to be a problem for the Dawgs.
That's not going to be a problem, because it appears actually that this is one of Delta's private terminals. Mm-hmm. This is not on at any gate at Hartsfield-Jackson. I imagine they will depart the buses and head into the private terminal and board directly there on the tarmac. I would be somewhat surprised if they went through the general chaos that folks like us usually encounter when we go to Hartsfield-Jackson. No long waiting lines outside the TSA or baggage checking area. This looks like it's just a privately chartered plane or jet.
Yeah, absolutely.
For Delta Airlines.
And of course, that was always going to be the case. I think Georgia is devoted enough to the Dawgs to roll out the red carpet this way and make sure that nothing is going to get in the way of them making it out, bringing this national championship title home again.
Now, if this happens, and if Georgia wins on Monday night or early Tuesday morning, whenever the game ends, it will be interesting to see how the teams travel back, how UGA travels back to Atlanta, whether or not they will land and have a championship celebration at a gate in the main terminal at Hartsfield. We've seen that many times when teams return, the Braves returning from a World Series, or UGA, or the Braves or UGA returning from a championship celebration, having hundreds or thousands of fans at the respective gates or terminals lining up to greet the players, obviously, and the coaches. Obviously, with the new TSA regulations, non-ticketed passengers are not allowed to go toward any gates beyond security at Hartsfield. So if that were to be the case, if UGA does win and lands at Hartsfield in the general terminal, how will they be exited, or how will they depart the plane, and into what gate or area of the airport they will be escorted into?
Glenda Roberts just said, Dawgs, bring it home to Athens. I wanted to touch upon that again. We talked about this earlier in the stream, but as much as Georgia roots for the Dawgs and is 100% behind these guys, this is such a special moment for Athens. I just feel like some of the people in Athens have watched these guys grow up, or have followed them during their college journey at least. And what a special time for them to get to see this all unfold in such a big way.
In such a big way, 2 consecutive years in a row. And during Kirby Smart's tenure, this is the 3rd national championship game that the Georgia Bulldogs will play in. Athens is one of Georgia's most signature, iconic communities, known for the world-class university that is the University of Georgia, and its business and legal communities. Is a hotbed and really a hub for journalism. The Red and Black newspaper is an award-winning news, student news organ at the University of Georgia. So many graduates from the University of Georgia have gone on to just wonderful careers, either politically, legally, from a sports avenue perspective, from a corporate perspective. Athens is just a signature community, and what it means for all of the fans who have devoted so many years to attending games between the hedges, going back to the lineage of English Bulldogs, who are the mascot, I think, for the team. I believe we're now on UGA 10, who is the mascot. I'm kind of curious on whether or not UGA is going to be making the trip and how he's going to be accommodated. But this is a major event in all of these players and coaches' lives, and all of the diehard University of Georgia Bulldog fans all around the U.S.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to just take you back to the Peach Bowl. If you can remember, as far back as 6 days ago, some of those fans reacting to that win, and then the look ahead at what is going to be a game that is watched really across the country.
It's going to be a dog fight, you know what I'm saying? Literally, dog fight, you know? But, man, this was a good one, man.
It's going to be a dogfight. Those words directly from, I want to say, a pretty big UGA fan, and you can hear just some of these other fans that we met at the airport earlier this morning. This is what they had to say.
I've been waiting on this day for a long time, so on the way to LA to see the Dawgs play.
How do you feel?
I feel real good about it.
Way excited. Go Georgia Bulldogs is all I can say.
Feeling good.
We're on our way to winning.
I love it. And, I mean, what do you think is going to happen? Any predictions? How's TCU going to
I think it'll be a good ball game, certainly in the first half, but I think Georgia's depth, experience, remember we played in this last year, all those are important factors, and I think we'll win the game easily in the second half.
And why are you such Georgia fans?
Well,
All right, I do believe we are having some technical difficulties with that. We'll come back to it, but hey, here's that on-the-ground stream for you that I was talking about earlier.
And this is very interesting here. Look at the UGA banners on the stairwell leading into the plane.
I'm excited just looking at this. I mean, this is really where they're going to load up and then officially be in the air This is the moment that a lot of people are excited for, the journey to LAX, the journey to SoFi Stadium, and kickoff 4:30 p.m. Monday night. But there's so much that we are going to be talking about before then. I want to say, as far as you guys here watching this live stream, I'm reading every single comment that you guys are pouring in, by the way, so keep them coming. We are going to be following these guys to LA and bringing you the same live stream coverage that we brought you this morning of their arrival, taking in the final arrival to LAX. We're also going to be bringing you TCU, which I believe they land at 4 p.m. Eastern, and then UGA landing at 6:10 p.m. Eastern. All of that coming your way, as well as more from our crews in LA, our anchors, Ella Dorsey, Rob Hughes, Emily Gagnon, Patrick Quinn, Alan Devlin. They're all in California right now talking to the businesses, the fans, the people that this moment is going to mean so much to. We're going to be bringing you all that throughout this weekend. I believe tomorrow is media day for these guys, where we'll get that up close reaction to how they're feeling and really the energy in the air. And then taking a look at Sunday, the head coach press conference. And I feel like that's when things get serious.
That's when things get serious. But the other thing we should really kind of focus on is the players' reaction to entering SoFi Stadium. This is one of the newest stadiums, or I believe it is the newest stadium in the United States, and it's just a technological marvel. I would love for us to be able to see the players' reactions when they enter the stadium, just seeing the spectacle of it all, and just getting really over those initial set of butterflies. Okay, now we're on the field of this magnificent facility. Now this is really getting real. Let's take it in. Let's take in the experience. Let's do the sightseeing. But then when the players hit the field for their practices, that's when things really start getting down to business. And you really need to have those butterflies out of the way by the time you take those first steps onto the field and start stretching, practicing, running your plays, doing what you need to do to get into the right mindset for a game that's going to be watched by millions of people, quite possibly all over the world.
Yeah, certainly. And those 2 Delta flights, ready to go. I mean, they look ready, at least to me, for these guys to come on board and take that. I think it's like a 3-hour journey, 3 to 4 hour journey, all the way to LAX, where the national championship game is going to be taking place Monday night at 4:30 p.m. That's LA time. I believe it's 7:30 p.m. for all of you guys watching on the eastern side of things.
Yeah, this is a prime time game. ESPN, and I believe it is being broadcast on ESPN, will be the center of the sports universe in just a few days.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to go through some of these comments here while we have them. Vicky Smith, go Dogs. Zach McCoy, again, was asking earlier, are the Dogs headed to the airport? We've since seen them arrive, so we're caught up there. Michael Baxter, actually earlier in the stream, said, I got the Dogs winning on Monday night by 40 points. And I think we had a whole conversation about that. But a lot of people, like I said, are confident that these guys are going to bring this back-to-back championship home.
Georgia is the favorite, and with them being favored, it comes with a little bit of increased pressure to put on a solid offensive and defensive showing against TCU, a team that's wasn't even predicted to be in this position in any of the AP polls or any of the other unified polls before the season began. Georgia was only ranked at the beginning of the season at number 4. Some people didn't have Georgia here. Others had Michigan, Ohio State, Alabama, other teams. Georgia, in some people's eyes, was not a favorite to repeat as a national champion, and yet here they are against one of the ultimate underdogs. So with that pressure, with that reality comes an increased pressure to put on a very good showing before what's going to be a massive television audience on Monday night.
What do you guys think? The people who are watching, we are live right now on our Facebook channel, on YouTube. For the most part of this stream, we were live on our Apple TV, Roku TV, and Amazon Fire TV platforms as well. For those that are trying to watch this on the big screen, if you're at home, right now we are in our newscast hour and also following this on Atlanta News First. But for those that are continuing on with us on this stream, by the way, you can also find it on our Atlanta News First app, I thought I should mention. Let us know your thoughts. How are you feeling about Monday night? Your reaction to just seeing this moment, the Dawgs making their way outside of Athens, outside of Georgia, and now going to be in this West Coast territory.
UGA has already made history by the mere fact that they're in this game. Regardless, this will be their third national championship game, and I believe
I believe we might have our Madeline Montgomery. I know we are in the middle of newscast. We might be hearing from her. Let's see if we can listen in.
That Vince Dooley custom plane. Look at it. It is decked out. We have the flags here ready to greet the players. Their buses have pulled up. So we are just waiting for them to come around, board that plane. We're going to be live on it. We're streaming on it. And of course, we'll be taking those shots throughout the show. But it's just an exciting time. And we've been at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport all day. And all morning we have been getting barks. We have been getting Go Dogs, Dogs on top from all of these fans. And they're so dedicated that they got tickets to go to LA before they even knew that the Dogs would be playing.
All right, that is some confidence right there. Now, our Madeline Montgomery on our newscast right now, Atlanta News First. If you're watching, tune into that. But hey, saying the reaction at the airport has been pretty confident. Some people even going as far as buying tickets before the Peach Bowl results essentially came in, or the final score. Those tickets are not cheap, but that has to be some serious confidence in these players.
That does show a lot of confidence and what Kirby Smart and his team of coaches have brought to the University of Georgia, that is almost an expectation that Georgia will compete for a national title every year. And so far we have, as we were saying before we heard from Madeline, this will be Kirby Smart's third national championship game. He is 1-1, but a lot of momentum on his side with a quarterback that he trusts, if we want to go back to Madeline.
I believe she's wrapping up. I'm going to try to actually see if we can reach out to her, get our own little conversation in, but for the time being, let's take you back out to this chopper shot. You can see more of a wide angle, the buses. I haven't seen the players get off the bus.
We haven't seen the players depart or the coaches depart the buses. Nothing is going to move until head coach Kirby Smart says, okay, it's time to go. But you can see the very cool UGA banners on the stairwell leading up to the chartered jets and waiting on the equipment. Obviously, it takes quite a bit of time to be unloaded from the buses, so we're waiting on that. But we're seeing the aerial shot. TCU, from what we understand, is already en route to LA and will land before UGA does.
And I'm going to try to see if we can get a hold of Madeline here, checking in with her. I believe we also might be able to dip into the newscast here a little bit. Just want to take you out to all the fun that's happening out there and get you caught up on the LA side of things, as well as this continued watch party that is the Georgia Dawgs taking off for LA.
donut on top, but also the 1950s architecture here. This building pretty much untouched besides some few renovations over the last 50 to 60 years. And like you said, Lana, it's been in Iron Man 2, it's been in Arrested Development, it's been in Crocodile Dundee, it's all over the place. Here, take a listen to one customer we spoke to today talking about what brought him to Randy's.
I am a donut connoisseur. Anytime I come out to LA, this is a staple stop for me. The kids have never been. We wanted to see the big donut sign, but apparently there's a sign over it today. But wanted to take the kids here. We all got a donut each to start our weekend.
And these donuts right here, they're coming out fresh nonstop. This place is open 24 hours a day. Customers consistently coming up to grab some. And look at this, some championship 23 football donuts right down there. I might grab one as soon as I throw it back to you guys. I'm telling you, I'm hungry. It's only about 9 a.m. here in Los Angeles, so it's about time for that morning donut. Lana, Zach, throw it back to you guys.
Hold on. Actually, it's interesting. I just talked to management. They are not going to let you back in the building, buddy, unless you bring the box back for the rest of us.
That's right, but you got to bring it back Tuesday when you're back. Not today. Don't buy them today.
Look. They're only a box of like 20 is only like $20, so I'll make sure that happens. I'll bring you both back a donut. Hold me to it.
You heard it here first, and you don't want us to call you a liar. All right.
And also, check out Roscoe's Chicken and Waffle while you're out there. It's good stuff.
Thanks, man.
Well, if you don't have to be in LA to enjoy the big game, local restaurants, bars, and breweries are also getting ready for the huge crowd.
Yeah, this comes at a time of year when a lot of these places really see their business slow down, so this is exciting for them. Firemaker Brewery here in Atlanta is actually trying to make the most of it. They're serving red beer in honor of the Bulldogs on Monday night. Now, if you're one of the few TCU fans in the state, there will be purple beer for you as well. The brewery is one of many local businesses across the area hoping to turn what is typically a really slow Monday night into the big bucks. Okay, they're hoping for at least a 75% boost in business, and they're prepared to handle those large crowds. Now, just around the corner, Scofflaw Brewing Company at the Works on Chattahoochee Road is also expecting big business. The UGA Alumni Association is actually hosting a watch party there for the big game.
And the championship gear already ready. Academy Sports and Outdoors showing the sealed boxes of Georgia National Championship swag. Academy Sports says if the Bulldogs pull off the win Monday night, they will reopen their stores so excited fans can grab all of that championship gear. And the Atlanta News First team, we're in LA. We'll be there until the final whistle blows to bring you a front row seat to the championship game. But be sure to catch our special Chasing the Championship live from Los Angeles. That's tonight at 7:30 right here on Atlanta News First.
All right,
All right, I wanted to dip into the newscast because we got that LA perspective. Just to give you guys a little more context, Randy's Donuts, historic for these games especially. And we heard from our Ellen Devlin, who got kind of that inside look at the restaurant. And a lot of people in LA, that energy is already wrapping around this game. It's a big deal for not just Texas, not just Georgia, but almost everybody in the country.
For almost everyone in the country, it'll be the top unquestioned ratings king on Monday night, as it's being broadcast on ESPN and covered by Atlanta News First and so many other hundreds of media outlets across the nation. We're waiting on the University of Georgia Bulldog players and coaches to exit their buses and to begin the embarkation process onto the private chartered Delta Airlines jets that will take them into Los Angeles International Airport and onto their accommodations in LA in preparation for Monday night's huge national championship game between UGA and TCU. We can see some
I believe
carts and luggage carts being driven into the terminal, anticipating the baggage and the equipment being unloaded from the buses onto the aircraft.
And I do want to mention here in about 5 minutes, we'll be talking with our managing editor, Josh Morgan, who is in LA along with the rest of our team, Ella Dorsey, Rob Hughes, Emily Gagnon, Patrick Quinn, Alan Devlin, so many of our Atlanta News First team that has beat the Dogs to LA to catch them on their landing and follow them all the way to that hopefully that win. Josh will be bringing us that perspective from LA here in about 5 minutes, but taking you back out to this live shot. In the meantime, we're going to be monitoring these guys. As soon as they get off the bus, we'll bring you that live shot. We'll try to catch them boarding the plane. I think that's an exciting moment for anybody who's following this the way that our live stream audience are, the way that you and I are following, and really all of Dawgs Nation right now.
Just look at the shot on the left with the University of Georgia Bulldog mascot and Vince Dooley's signature. Georgia has had 27 head football coaches, the most successful being Vince Dooley, and so far Kirby Smart. Several other very well-known head coaches are interspersed in that group. Kirby Smart was the defensive coordinator at the University of Alabama under Nick Saban in December 2015, when University of Georgia Athletics Director Greg McGarity made the decision to fire then head coach Mark Richt, a coach with a 7.740 winning percentage, a winning football coach, no matter the record, no matter the number or what have you, in favor of a defensive coach who had never been a head coach before. This is Kirby Smart's first head coaching position. He's been at it now for 7 years. Unparalleled success, leading the University of Georgia, following a model of coaching and preparation that Smart learned from his mentor and boss for 7 years, Nick Saban. No better person, no better role model, no better coach to learn your craft from and to learn how to prepare your team than Nick Saban. Much like the New England Patriot coaching tree with Bill Belichick, and prior to him, Bill Parcells. People who have gone on to become head coaches elsewhere, either at the collegiate or professional level, really learning from the masters of their craft and then carrying on that successful tradition.
And there's that live shot back for you of this plane where we will hopefully see soon the Georgia Bulldogs coming on board, headed to LAX. They are expected to arrive at around 6:10 p.m. That official flight takeoff from ATL is scheduled for 1 p.m. I believe, so here in about 45 minutes. We're going to be following them every step of the way. But in the meantime, bring back our chopper, Atlanta News First chopper shot from the air so you can see a little bit better. I think at this moment they are still on the bus. I know Coach Smart, Kirby Smart, is leading that front on where these players are going to go, the direction, making sure they get up in the air on time. We just saw, if you missed it, the luggage cart come around to pick up the stuff off of the bus. So that tells you a little bit about where they are in preparing to take off.
Well, coaches place a lot of emphasis on team chemistry and bonding. So these players will not be just assigned random seats just anywhere on the jet. They have their own seating assignments on buses, their own locker assignments, who is assigned a locker next to which player. Everything is done for a reason. This is a lesson that Coach Smart brought over from Nick Saban. Nothing is left to chance. Meal preparation, nutrition, exercise, stretching, sleeping patterns, if you will, curfews. Heaven knows there's going to be some very, very strictly imposed curfews on these players heading into one of the world's most glamorous, most recognized media markets in the world, that being the city of Los Angeles. Every aspect of these players' lives, schedules, what have you, will be closely monitored by the head coach and his outstanding group of coaches, assistant coaches, equipment managers, physicians, team assistants, etc.
Now, I gotta say, I have received some updates here since we last mentioned. Our managing editor, Josh Morgan, had to go for additional coverage in California, so we won't be able to talk to him until a little later today. But we will be talking to Madeline Montgomery. We saw her earlier here during our newscast hour, bringing us that update from the airport. She's been at the airport since early this morning, so we'll be talking to her just about how Georgia's been reacting. I know she's talked to already several fans who have gone as far as to buy tickets before the Peach Bowl game even happened. So I'm excited to get her perspective, and then we will, of course, touch base with our managing editor closer to the arrival time, where he will be at the airport for the arrival of the Dawgs, bringing us that on-the-ground coverage. I'm excited for both of those things.
I'm excited to hear from Madeline Montgomery, who, as you said, has been at the airport since early this morning. I'm interested to hear her perspectives of people whom she has interviewed and talked with. We are seeing a little bit of activity on the tarmac and in the stairwell leading up to the jet. A lot of airport personnel, Delta Airline personnel, making final preparations for these players to disembark, and they are scheduled to take off approximately 1 p.m., which we are just under about 43 minutes away from, as we're continuing this aerial coverage and on-the-ground coverage of the UGA University of Georgia Bulldogs leaving Atlanta. They are at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport, soon to depart within the hour, we expect, for Los Angeles International Airport in California, where they will take on the Texas Christian University Horned Frogs in the NCAA Division I Football Championship Monday night, prime time, roughly 7:30 p.m. local time.
And hey, by the way, I wanted to mention tonight we will be bringing you a Chasing the Championship special on Atlanta News First. Tune in to that. You're not going to want to miss it. We got, of course, our Fred Khalil, Emily Gagnon, all of the people that are bringing this experience to you both out in LA and here in Georgia. They're all going to be a part of that special coverage. You don't want to miss it tonight at 7 p.m. Now, as we're looking at this shot, I like you said, there is some activity going. I can't wait to see these guys off the bus and just so we can take it in, these players who have such a big journey ahead for them, but nothing that they can't handle.
Nothing they can't handle, although I imagine there are some first-time redshirt freshmen on the team that are making the trip. They'll be extremely excited, but this is why Stetson Bennett IV, the quarterback, who was a walk-on, who no one gave any thought that he would be able to achieve this level of success, winning his first national title as a fifth-year senior last year, coming back for one more year, 25 years old. If he was going to make an NFL career out of his future athletic pursuits, it probably should have already started by now, but he came back to win a second national title under head coach Kirby Smart. Coach is the one who believed in him and put him in as a starter a couple of years ago. The only thing that's happened, Georgia has been a winner since. He is a cornerstone of this foundation, and this will be his final college football game of his career. Who knows what will happen in his career moving forward. His is a story that has been likened many times to that of a Hollywood movie. And I imagine that there will be screenplays already being written right now about the career of Stetson Bennett IV.
Oh, no doubt about that. Hey, let's talk a little bit about what makes this so exciting. I mean, I think it goes without saying, but you have been a Bowl volunteer for a long, long time. What is it about football that just really gets you just engaged in this moment with these guys and following along?
It's just having the opportunity to witness moments in history like this. My first Peach Bowl game as a volunteer came in 1989 when the University of Syracuse faced Georgia at the old Atlanta Stadium, the Atlanta Fulton County Stadium. That year was the first year that the Metro Atlanta Chamber of Commerce had taken over the Peach Bowl, and they were looking to expand their cadre of volunteers. Myself, a couple of friends of mine volunteered, and we've been doing it ever since. And if I'm not mistaken, we are looking at the man himself, head coach Kirby Smart, leading his players and coaches off of the team buses, talking with an airport and Delta employee on the tarmac, and heading into the gyms.
This is so exciting. You really can't get a shot of this without actually being there. I'm glad that we made that happen. But yeah, take a look. We are so close to these guys. And to think that just days from now, pretty much all of football fandom is going to be watching this game.
It is the center of the NCAA universe. The NCAA has its own share of controversies and managerial issues. The transfer portal that allows players to transfer from one college to another seemingly at will is a major challenge. The influx of the approved influx of corporate money into the NCAA experience, college athletics, student athletes, what have you, that has really upended the entire college football experience for this year. In many respects, the NCAA is kind of lawless in this regard, but that does not extinguish or dissuade any of the excitement or take away from any of the experiences that these young men and their coaches are enjoying right now. I'm not too sure what they're being given as they enter onto the plane,
you know,
but obviously I believe that's Stetson Bennett IV right there.
I was just about to say.
There is one of the men of the hour along with his head coach, leaving the bus that has brought them from Athens to Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport. What did I tell you earlier? I thought all of these players would be listening to their own headphones and AirPods
and sure enough,
and what have you, and here they are.
I want to see if we can get some sound from here. We're actually going to go ahead and talk to our Madeline Montgomery. She is there on the ground bringing us this shot along with our photojournalist. We're going to talk to her just about what she's seeing. I know she has the closer view of all this, so I'm going to give her a call. We're going to keep this shot going. I don't want to miss the chance to see these players, but let's get her on the phone here with us. All right, and we do have Madeline here with us as we're following the shot, this fantastic close-up of our dogs. Madeline, you've been there all day long. What can you tell us?
Hey Maria, so yes, we are out here. We are getting video of this exciting time. I can tell you it's cold out here, and that's one thing I can tell you right now, but it's just really exciting, and this is the most Atlanta thing I've ever seen in my life, honestly. So it's Delta Airlines. They've been partnered with UGA for ages. They've got their custom Vince Dooley plane that the dogs are taking off on, and the plane is decked out with UGA flags, and then in the most Atlanta way possible, they are getting Chick-fil-A as they get on the plane so that they can have a delicious chicken sandwich for the road so that they can fuel up for the big day on Monday.
And Madeline, we were following the newscast earlier at noon. You said that some fans that you got to speak to told you they bought tickets before the Peach Bowl even happened. Is that right?
Yes, it was kind of wild how early people were buying tickets because, you know, you don't know who's going to the national championship until literally last weekend, so a week ago. And then, you know, what are you going to do? It's an expensive flight if you're buying it a week out. So people just were buying tickets to the game and flights and hotels just on the faith that their dogs would be going to the championship. And here we are. So it was worth it. It did pay off.
Madeline, you have some Georgia connections, or I should say, I know you're from Florida, but you've had some time here in Georgia. I mean, what's the energy out there for you?
I'm actually from Georgia.
You are? Oh, even better. How is this for you?
Yeah,
I'm from full circle moment.
Yeah, no, it's so exciting. So I'm from Gwinnett County, went to Parkview High School. A lot of my classmates went to Georgia, including my twin brother. I went to a tiny college with no football, which is one of my life regrets. But so my twin was going to UGA, and so I would go down to Athens many weekends out of the school year to make sure I could see the Dawgs play. I went down to Duval this year to see the Florida-Georgia game, and so definitely a fan, and it's really exciting to be able to like see these players in person, see the coaches in person, and just see them go to the national championship again. This is corny, but my brother passed away, and so when the Dawgs finally won the national championship, it felt like maybe up in heaven he helped give them a little nudge to victory. So maybe he'll do that again. We'll see.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. I gotta say, I feel like from listening to the fans that you've spoke to, from the fans that the rest of our team has spoke to, that's been that personal connection that really tells you how much these guys mean to Georgia.
Absolutely. You know, I think if you get sports and you're into sports, you get it. To other people, it seems silly, but people really feel a connection to their teams. You know, this one family I talked to, it was a granddaughter and her grandfather. Her grandfather had gone to UGA. He has a house in Athens, influenced his granddaughter to go. She's going in the fall, and so they were doing a cute little family trip to see this game. And you have people who just have grown up cheering on the Dawgs through thick and thin, and you know, the Dawgs are on top right now, but there were definitely some difficult years, and so these loyal fans who have seen them through the hard times, it's especially sweet when they see them through the good ones. And then I think people in Georgia in general, even if you're not crazy about college football, it's just still exciting to see your home state's team go and play at this big of a scale. I mean, right now they're saying that probably 21 million people are going to be watching the broadcast of this game, and then you also have the tens of thousands of people who are going to it. So it's a huge deal, and it's something that gets the people going, you know?
Oh, absolutely. And I gotta say, as we continue to watch this up close view that you've brought us, I'm feeling the excitement all the way from here at the station. I know you were saying it's cold, but I hope the excitement is warming you up as well. Thank you so much, Madeline.
Yes.
We're going to be continuing to follow your shot as well as our Atlanta News First chopper. I just thank you for your time.
Of course. Good luck.
All right, and that was our Madeline Montgomery bringing us that perspective. Again, she's been at the airport pretty much all morning long. Now she is bringing us as close as we can get to the Dawgs before they are in LA.
As she said, this is just a uniquely Atlanta experience. You have the University of Georgia, you have Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport, Delta Airlines, and what are the players being given before they go onto the plane? Chick-fil-A, another Atlanta icon. Truett Cathy started Chick-fil-A in the middle 20th century around the East Point, South Atlanta area, next to the now defunct Ford Motor Company manufacturing plant. He would sell his chicken sandwiches to workers going on shift and coming off shift at the Ford Motor plant, the Hapeville plant south of the city. And now here are players getting the Chick-fil-A sandwiches, and there we see the legendary Vince Dooley specially chartered jet that will take the Bulldogs to SoFi Stadium or to LAX and then on to SoFi Stadium just later today, just a matter of a few hours. 21 million people expected to watch Monday night's NCAA Division I football championship between UGA and TCU. It doesn't really get any more Atlanta than what you're watching right now.
And as you were talking about earlier, these guys with their headphones on, getting in the spirit of things, whatever they need to do to focus their energy. We can see that as some of these players continue to board. This flight is set to take off at 1 p.m. We are going to follow as long as we can while these live shots remain up and bring you to that very a close time of takeoff, and then hopefully see them at 6:10. That is their estimated time of arrival at LAX. We're going to be bringing you to our crews that are already at LA, our Ella Dorsey, our Rob Hughes, Emily Gagnon, Alan Devlin will be speaking with us. We have a lot more excitement that is continuing to come at this time and later on this evening, and you can find that right here, whether you're watching us on our Atlanta News First Facebook, YouTube, Amazon, Fire TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, we're everywhere. The easiest way, I should say, is the Atlanta News First app, though. That is where we will notify you when we are back with our coverage. We're going to stay up with this and continue to follow these guys, but you don't want to miss all the exciting moments from touchdown in LA to everything that this weekend entails, media day, the head coach's press conference, talking to these players about the game with TCU and how they're feeling now that the Peach Bowl has passed and their sole focus is bringing another national championship title home.
With 21 million people expected to watch this game, not to mention more than 70,000 at SoFi Stadium, I am reminded of an experience that I had years ago. A young man named Johnny Manziel, who was the quarterback for Texas A&M. It was very controversial. He was the Heisman Trophy winning player years ago. His final collegiate game was at the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl at the Georgia Dome. So it's been several years when this happened, and I was on the field watching Texas A&M come on the field and then come off the field after their warm-ups, and I just remember looking at him thinking that this was a young man who had literally the eyes of the entire college football and sporting world on him because of his lifestyle, because of his size, because of his controversial career. And just watching him handle that pressure with the poise that he carried, you have to wonder and really empathize that all of these young men who are about to experience this are going to be at the center of the sporting universe. And the pressure is on UGA as a favorite to not only win, but win handily on Monday night and convincingly.
Yeah, absolutely. And we talk about just the amount of work that goes into that. I think a big part of our conversation was bringing up Coach Smart, Kirby Smart, being at the center of this. This is a big game for him. I'm sure every game is a big game for him, but also a lot of that pressure falls on him, and he is someone who knows how to handle another game like this. He's the type of person that goes in ready.
He is prepared, he is ready. There is no moment that at this point in his 7-year tenure as head coach of UGA that he has not experienced. When you're playing at this high of a level, every game is a must win. One loss can topple you from the top 5 or top 10 ranking in the college football poll rankings to below top 10, and at which point your chances of playing in a New Year's Six bowl game that is part of the ongoing rotation of semifinal championship games really diminishes. Nick Saban found that out this year when Alabama failed to finish in the top 5. He wasn't able to get his team into contention. I can't remember what Alabama's final ranking was, but it was, the top 4 teams in the country are the ones who play in the semifinal bowl championship series, that being UGA, Michigan, Ohio State, and TCU. And you see the Atlanta Airport Hilton in the background. That kind of gives you an idea, an orientation of where we are watching the Bulldogs, I believe. Was I mistaken? That's the Renaissance Hotel, my apology. They're at the private terminal at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport.
I just want to take a moment to see these guys. I mean, they they look ready. You know, they are carrying themselves with this wave of confidence, but humility, and just ready to represent Georgia and be the Dogs that they are. I'm going to look through some comments here. Sanchez Turner is saying, "Go Dogs, bring home another win." And I think that is the words that are being echoed out throughout Georgia and really anybody who is part of Dogs Nation. Now, some more comments. Remmel saying, "Go Dogs." Pam Jones, "Dogs," with a heart emoji and a football emoji. And then Penny Coffee, "Go Dogs." Linda Berry saying, "Bring it home." Glenda adding, "Bring it all home to Athens, Georgia." Again, I've mentioned this a couple of times, Athens being a big place of pride for these guys. This is they are UGA fans in Athens, I imagine, but this is also a community, and this is more personal to them than I imagine anywhere else, because these are the guys that they followed throughout UGA, their college history, and now they get to see them take this national stage.
And it is a special moment for all of them as we see more players disembark their charter bus onto their charter jet with their own personal Chick-fil-A menu items.
I could go for some Chick-fil-A right now.
I could go for some Chick-fil-A right now too. I had quite a bit of it over the past, over New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, but this is just an Atlanta iconic brand that is synonymous with this amazing city that we call home. There are so many Atlanta iconic entities such as Delta, Chick-fil-A, Coca-Cola, all of which we are continuing in-depth coverage here on Atlanta News First. We have some other aerial shots on one of our other streams showing the looks to be quite a significant amount of distance that players are walking from their bus onto the tarmac and then boarding the jets. But hopefully all of these young men are living in the moment, because this moment may never occur again. And so hopefully they will make the most of it and bring the University of Georgia another national championship and all of the prestige and accoutrements that accompany such an accomplishment.
I gotta say, following these guys since moving to Atlanta and getting to know just the culture around football here has been quite a treat for me as an outsider. It's so much more than football in the way that people describe it. You know, we talked to Madeline, who gave her own personal story about rooting for these guys and that being such a powerful symbol of her family member. But so many other fans have talked about these guys in a similar way, and how it's more than just a game or a team, but that it is also just such a deep moment for them to connect with these guys, to be present with these guys, and to really just follow along on this journey.
It is a journey, and going back to what we were talking about earlier in the stream, you have to really appreciate and understand the deep connection that folks like myself, who are native Southerners, who have lived here all of our lives and who have followed some of these teams. I'm not a UGA grad, but even I'm caught up in the fact that this is bringing the state of Georgia to the national spectrum and highlighting all of the wonderful aspects of living in the Peach State, in the Deep South, in one of the world's major international metropolises, has and how it all brings it back home to us. College football is king in the South, more so, I shouldn't say more so than any other region, but I think I will. It's nothing for the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor to fill their stadium with 101,000 fans several times a year during the college football season. But in the Deep South, we have such a connection to our universities, be it Ole Miss, be it Alabama, Auburn, Florida, Florida State, South Carolina, the Wolfpack of North Carolina, ACC, SEC, what have you, Conference USA, where my alma mater, Georgia State, plays in the Sun Belt Conference as well. but college football brings people in the Deep South closer together than anything. There's college football, and then you have the professional here in Georgia. There's nothing else that will compare it. And if we think that we have seen World Series parades that are hugely well attended, we have not seen anything like what will welcome these players and coaches back to Atlanta and Athens if they come back next Tuesday with a victory and a second consecutive national championship.
And speaking of just how different, football is here in the South, talking about tailgating, that's been a conversation that for some time since the Peach Bowl, and part of that conversation was that the SoFi Stadium does not host or allow tailgating in and around the stadium for their own reasons, but we actually ended up having Governor Brian Kemp finding that he tweeted out at SoFi Stadium about Georgia football and just saying, I'm going to read this quote directly from the governor, posted this on Twitter, quote, I apologize, I have the wrong tweet up here. Let me go find the right one. But him saying, football is serious. Here it is. Okay, quote, while California may not know this, in the South, a tailgate with friends and family is the only way to prepare for a big game. When Georgia hosts the 2025 National Championship, we'll make sure fans are able to tailgate, even if it's at the state capitol. That directly from the governor, throwing a little shade at California at the SoFi Stadium, but mostly calling to 2025 and that personal assurance that we're going to do it the way we do it in Georgia.
You have never seen a tailgating spread unless you've been to an Alabama, to a Georgia, to a Florida game, to a South Carolina game. We take tailgating very seriously here in the Deep South. Call it what you will, we're fine with it, but it's just a way, it is as unique and as an inclusive experience as much as the game itself. You don't just go to a college football game in Athens to see the game. You go for tailgating, you go for the camaraderie, and SoFi Stadium is the newest multi-use facility in the United States. I'm sure they probably don't want to get too much trash or debris on the ground, causing a lot of cleanup areas. That's perfectly fine. But and also there might be an issue of overuse of alcohol consumption. Who knows? There might be a part of a little bit of about that. But Georgia Governor Brian Kemp is right. Tailgating is as much a part of a college football experience as the game itself.
Hey, I wanted to read a comment we got here. Sanchez Turner saying, we come from all walks of life and come together as a dog family to pre-hype for our home or championship games. And I believe she's talking about tailgating. She adds, I'm very disappointed that no tailgating is allowed. This is what we look forward to celebrate our dogs. Sanchez adding, to what you said, echoing those words, that this is just part of the culture and such a deep part of supporting a team to showing out for these guys. Now, while the SoFi Stadium might not be in support of tailgating for their own reasons, that is not going to prevent people from tailgating here. I imagine that's still going to go on.
I imagine it will go on here, and I can't help but think that there are going to be several hundred or maybe even several thousand UGA fans who will find some place near the stadium or at their hotel to set up in a parking lot or what have you in a park to just join each other in a spirit of camaraderie and really to get into the true spirit of the game. University of Georgia fans will find a way to bond out in California ahead of next Monday's national championship game between UGA and TCU. And with talking about Governor Brian Kemp, I believe the state legislature, which convenes also on Monday, will just have a very abbreviated work day. No major work will be done as lawmakers hit town prepared to do what the Constitution requires them to do, and that is to meet for 40 legislative days each year. But lawmakers have their priorities just like we do, and they will have all of their attention focused on the UGA Bulldogs. I can only imagine all of the resolutions of support that are now being drafted in anticipation. We can look for Governor Brian Kemp to declare one day over the next several weeks an official University of Georgia National Day or what have you. But lawmakers will do everything that they can to share as much of the spotlight as they can possibly cast on themselves, as politicians want to do.
And speaking of, I know part of this conversation is going to take us to LA at the SoFi Stadium where all of this is going down. I was actually talking to our anchor and reporter, Tori Cooper. Now, she is a UGA alumni, but she's also from California. So interesting connection there for her. Obviously a big Dawgs fan, an athlete herself. I was asking her, about the tailgating at SoFi Stadium, and she added, the SoFi Stadium, unlike what we have here in Georgia, is an environment where a lot of people really dress up and go out. This is, for them, not just football, but an event people will get ready for, influencers will attend, so it's a little bit of a different climate out there than what we're used to here in Georgia, but nevertheless, the excitement is there from both sides.
SoFi Stadium is a multi-use facility. There are other attractions around the grounds surrounding the stadium, so I'm sure there are some environmental concerns and public safety concerns why SoFi isn't allowing tailgating. There you take a look at the facility. It's amazing in every respect. This is one of the reasons that Stan Kroenke, who was the owner of the then St. Louis, now Los Angeles Rams, was advocating a return to LA. LA is a major market, one of the world's largest metropolitan areas, and for several decades had no presence in the NFL in one of its largest untapped markets. So we have SoFi Stadium, very environmentally friendly and conscious, as is our own Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Seating capacity just over 70,000, but the architecture of it and the amenities and the scenery surrounding it, waterfalls, palm trees, things of that nature, the organizers and city leaders obviously don't want a lot of rowdy, semi-inebriated tailgaters to be hanging out outside of the stadium before the game. That's their prerogative. But if the lack of tailgating amenities at SoFi Stadium is the only newsworthy aspect of what's happening, I think we're doing all right.
So I gotta ask you, as a Dawgs fan yourself, what's your tailgating tradition?
Well, now, Maria, I graduated from Georgia State University, so I've only been to one or two Dawg games in the past, but I can tell you fans will start lining up, claiming top parking spaces around Sanford Stadium, between the hedges in Athens for several hours. If you're talking about a 12 p.m. game, you have people staking out the best locations there overnight and being prepared to host all of their friends and family to the spectacle that only a UGA football game can bring. And it's like that all throughout the major universities of the South. My alma mater, GSU, has only had a football team for maybe 10 years now, maybe a little longer. And now that we have our own stadium in what used to be known as Turner Field, we're still sort of just finding our own way in terms of tailgating opportunities and amenities, but we're getting there. Nothing like a UGA game, nothing like an Auburn game or an Alabama game.
And we are just 10 minutes out from the expected takeoff of these Delta planes as they head for LAX. And now I believe all team members are on board. They are essentially just getting the last bits of all of this ready. I'm going to bring you out to our aerial live shot here so you can take a look. All teams are on board. The 2 Delta planes are going to be making their way that journey to LAX, where we will be following their arrival. We have our crews already out in LA. Our Atlanta News First meteorologist Ella Dorsey. She's a UGA alumni, a diehard Dawgs fan, and I hope I said that with enough excitement, because she is such a fan that she'll probably ask me to say it louder. Rob Hughes, of course, anchor, a sports fanatic, a Dawgs fan himself. Emily Gagnon, who's been such a staple in sports here in Atlanta, also following this. And then our Alan Devlin, we'll actually be talking with him later on today when they touch down at LAX at 6:10 p.m. Now, Alan is also from Georgia, so you can imagine all of these people that are part of our Atlanta News First staff with these deep connections to UGA, to Georgia, to capture this moment for us and take us through the LA experience. That is something that is unique, and we are going to be bringing you extensive coverage leading up to tonight, which is going to be our Chasing the Championship special. You can make sure to watch that on Atlanta News First, as well as on the Atlanta News First app.
And it's really a testament to the news team and the management here at Atlanta News First, WANF, to assign crews of reporters and anchors and camera photojournalists and reporters to such an important event. We knew that this was an event that was going to really capture the city and the state and the regions and the nation's attention. So having folks like Ella and Emily and Rob and Alan assigned to bring us all of this excellent coverage just adds another layer in a city where most of our residents who live here are not from here, and it adds an element of what we believe just to be greater authenticity to bringing to continuing coverage of this event as we await the final preparation, the closing of the doors and the subsequent taxiing to the runway, and then a safe and happy departure from Atlanta to LAX, where the University of Georgia Bulldogs will seek to make history as the only back-to-back national champions in the school's 100-plus year history.
And I gotta say, as we're 7 minutes out, we hope you guys stick around for this takeoff, because that is gonna be quite a sight to see. I wanted to shout out the rest of our team here at Atlanta News First. You know, the producers, our assignment desk, our editors, who have been working so hard and excited to follow this along. I mean, the energy in the newsroom has been so passionate about covering this and sharing this moment with our viewers, with the people who give us their time each day. But to be a part of this, and why it was so important to have you here along with me, Tim, your added knowledge of the history, your involvement as a volunteer, you just living in Georgia and understanding these guys. I feel like in a way that an outsider probably couldn't. It is so special and so personal, and I think that's what makes this such an emotional moment.
It is an emotional moment, just seeing the fact that, you know, sometimes I'll be standing here and I'm wondering, all right, how would I feel if my son were on this journey, and what, you know, what myself and my wife, how we would be experiencing it, and it's hard to put into words. It's hard to imagine. You can kind of live vicariously through some of these young men and the parents and the grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, brothers, sisters of the young men on this journey, what they are feeling like, and how the sense of anticipation, anxiety, pride, wonderment, perhaps a little trepidation, all of these emotions just come together, and we're very fortunate and thankful to be bringing this experience to all of our viewers, both broadcast, however you're watching this on your phone, at work. Have your screensaver on standby in case your boss comes in and looks over your shoulder and asks you what you're doing.
Oh, I'm sure their boss would be understanding if they're from Georgia. But I will say, I want to read this comment again from Sanchez saying, thank you, ANF, for bringing us this coverage. Some of us who can't attend appreciate this. We will be having a Dawgs party on Monday. Governor Kemp, please get us a work excuse. So a little shout out to the Georgia governor there.
I'm sure Governor Kemp and all of your respective lawmakers will do whatever they can to make that happen. There are going to be a number of watch parties, I'm sure, going on around Atlanta and in Athens and throughout Georgia on Monday. We've already had a little bit of coverage from Adam Murphy, one of our outstanding reporters here, talking about some special concoctions and brews that are being developed in honor of this. And we can only hope that everyone's hopes will be realized, and as of early Tuesday morning, Georgia will continue to reign supreme as a national NCAA Division I champion.
I gotta say, this is very similar to what we talked about back when we were going to Indianapolis, and I imagine you have a lot to say about that. These guys that did get a chance to be there last year, reliving this moment again and knowing that it's so rare for that to happen.
It is rare for it to happen, and as we said earlier, this is one of the reasons. This is the reason that quarterback Stetson Bennett IV came back for a sixth year, as a sixth-year senior, and another consecutive year as starting quarterback, just to be able to experience this. He obviously has all the confidence in the world that the coaching staff and University of Georgia Athletics Department was going to do whatever it took to field another national championship contending team, opening the season as ranked number 4 in the AP poll. That was kind of an insult to Georgia fans and the staff and the players, considering the fact they were coming off of a national championship season. Obviously, Georgia had a number of NFL draft picks. Coach Smart lost a lot of his star players, but he does what every great, successful college football coach does. He is relentless in terms of recruiting, in terms of doing whatever it takes to secure funding, expertise, equipment, whatever it takes for Georgia to consistently be a college football powerhouse, the same way that Alabama has been in that top slot for so many years. This is what he was hired to do. And he and his staff recruit relentlessly. You do not lose 8 of your best players in 1 year who go pro to the NFL and then turn right back around and head to a second consecutive national championship season. It just doesn't happen very often, which is why what we're looking at is so historic and so special.
And I do believe we are less than 60 seconds away from takeoff, 30 seconds to be exact. We are going to be following these Delta flights. Now, I'm assuming they are going to leave on time. Based on what you said, Kirby Smart is going to make that happen. They are scheduled to depart at 1 p.m.
And they still have to make a short little taxiway to the runway, so they have not started moving yet. I'm not sure. It looks like they are still loading some food and other supplies onto one of the jets in the foreground. And there are some personnel on the ground, so I can't imagine that's actually going to happen until all of the ground personnel have left. But I'm sure Coach Smart puts his trust into Delta Airlines that they're going to make this happen as promptly and as on time as they possibly can.
Firemaker will be serving red beer for Georgia fans come Monday night in honor of those Bulldogs in the national championship. And you know what? We're going to go ahead and pour one here for you so you can get a sense of what it looks like. And for those few TCU fans that are here in the state of Georgia, well, they'll have purple beer for you too. But hey, doesn't red look much better?
Cheers.
Georgia fans raised a glass for what they hope will be a championship Monday night at Firemaker Brewing. Management here hopes to turn what is typically a slow evening into a financial winner.
I would love for it to be at least like 75% to 100% boost, or 300% boost would be awesome. I would rather it be like, dang, we got rocked.
Staff is prepared to handle large crowds, and they've been working hard to get their brews ready for game night.
Back here, this is the big one we really like. This is our Calamity Jane. This is going to be our nice, easy drinking light beer. This is what we're really going to be pouring a lot of for the game on Monday.
And just around the corner, Scofflaw Brewing Company at the Works on Chattahoochee Road is also expecting big business. The UGA Alumni Association will be hosting a watch party here for the College Football National Championship.
Yeah, I'm a Georgia girl. I was born and raised Georgia, so I'm a big fan of UGA myself, but I'm also of the mindset of I just want everyone to have a good time and just come and hang out. But no, I'm rooting for UGA.
And back at Firemaker, they've thrown in promotions like $10 pitchers of red or purple beer. Plus, if you show up in your Georgia or TCU jersey and
I did have to interrupt that fantastic coverage from Adam regarding Georgia's excitement for this, because we don't want to miss this takeoff. The Delta plane right at 103 officially making its way, going to be in the air here any moment. How exciting.
We have just a wonderful split screen shot here up on our live stream, and this is the latest step in the journey to another second consecutive national championship. UGA players, coaches, equipment, taxiing on the runway at Hartsfield for a 3.5 to 4 hour flight to Los Angeles International Airport, where we have crews on the ground who will be reporting back on Atlanta News First, both here on our digital news desk as well as our newscast later this evening, continuing comprehensive coverage of what could be a historic second consecutive National Football Championship for the University of Georgia.
I will say I've done these streams before, and I try to put up the split screen to give people all angles, but if you are adamant about seeing a bigger picture of one of these, let us know. I can switch between them, but we are capturing this plane takeoff, the second one going to be following shortly after.
I imagine this is going to be number one on the runway when it actually gets into position. This might be a separate privately used jetway or runway that we're looking at Hartsfield. Obviously, it has to be cleared by the air traffic controllers at the airport. So, but as you can see, there is no other traffic, no line of other commercially used jets at this particular runway at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International.
And there's a closer shot for you. Plane number 1. We got 2 planes taking off. All right, I'm gonna leave this up for you, that close-up shot and a wide view here so you can see both sides of this, bringing that to you from our crew on the ground as well as the aerial that we are continuing to get from our Atlanta News First chopper.
Air travel and highway travel railroads are the main reason that Atlanta exists in the form that we know it today. If you're, it is a hub for connections. It is a railroad hub. So many people are unaware that a lot of the nation's goods and products and manufactured goods are transported from one location to another via the nation's railways. Atlanta came into existence in the 19th century, in the 1830s and 1840s, as a connecting point for the Western and Atlantic railroads to connect the city to the rest of the nation's interior. And with the advent of air travel, Atlanta leaders such as former Mayor William Hartsfield persuaded Delta Airlines to relocate from Louisiana to Atlanta, thus making the city an airline hub. In the late 1970s, Maynard Jackson, mayor of Atlanta, persuaded the existing Atlanta airport that Mayor Hartsfield brought to expand its international capabilities, which it did, which is now why we call our airport Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport. Those two individuals and so many others have made Atlanta into the international transportation center that it is today.
And Delta really being, like you mentioned earlier, such an integral part of Atlanta airport history, and now being a part of this moment to deliver our dogs to LA, where this national championship game will kick off. And I gotta say, we've said this earlier, this is a historic moment either way. You know, TCU hasn't won a national championship since 1938, and the Dogs here have an opportunity to bring a back-to-back title home. So both ways, this is going to be such an exciting moment for either team, and the fact that the two are playing against each other. And we've heard from talking to some of these players at the Peach Bowl that they are serious and they have a respect for one another that is going to likely focus them during Monday night.
The last thing one team wants to do is to provide bulletin board material for the other team in their locker room in terms of being derogatory or trash talking or however you would like to phrase it. TCU, this is their first appearance in a national championship game since this playoff format began 9 years ago. As we said, this is the 9th BCS championship game that's been played under the current playoff and ranking system. So TCU obviously wants to not only win, but play well and put on a competitive game. We're going to find out, just as the Delta Jet #1 lines up for a takeoff, we'll find out in just a few short days how these preparations are going to play out on the gridiron.
I just want to be perfectly silent for this takeoff and make it real dramatic. The send-off of the first plane. And we got wheels off the ground. They are officially in the air. The first Delta plane of the UGA Dawgs team headed for LA. Let me bring up this shot here as we follow along as much as we can. There they go. Safe travels to the Dawgs. I'm sure a lot of people are going to be counting down until 6:10 p.m. tonight when that estimated arrival at LAX is scheduled for. We will be there bringing you coverage right here at Atlanta News First and on this stream. Make sure that you are setting your reminder, 6:10, tune in with us for the touchdown, as well as following along with our teams in Los Angeles who are talking about all the excitement that is waiting for these national championship defenders. Oh, how exciting. I'm going to stay on this shot as long as I can, but there you go, that plane getting smaller and smaller, not quite the large aircraft that we saw on the ground just a minute ago.
They are on their way, and there is another jet that I believe is still on the ground that should be taking off momentarily. And this jet is just about almost out of sight. So now we're circling back to, I believe there are.
Far left.
There we go. Second jet being prepped to take the rest of the team, equipment. Our guys are zooming in on it. Let's see what we can see.
I'm going to see if we can find out from our airport contacts, and I know our crew that's on the ground on when this plane is expected to take off, but we'll stick with you as long as we do have this shot. This is the second plane of the Georgia Bulldogs headed for Los Angeles. All right, and that's